Hey guys, welcome to Fanfic Fanatics. So in today's video we are gonna see, what if Deku became Nomu and fell for Toga? Part 1. Before starting, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you are interested in MHA fanfictions. This story is K-Soy by Gaishinagro 301. Now without wasting any more time, let's dive in. Long ago, the quirk was first reported in China, in the village of KK, when a luminescent baby was born in a hospital, with doctors unable to explain the abnormality. However, little by little similar cases were being recorded around the world. Whether due to a variation in their physical appearance or their mental abilities, these people originally grew up in an environment of rejection, because their powers caused conflict with those who had not been endowed with any power and who felt inferior. As time went by, the birth of people with a quirk became more common, and groups of heroes even emerged who began to use their gifts to fight those who used their powers for evil. However, the police decided not to recruit any quirk holders, for fear that they would use their abilities as weapons. In this way, people began to dream of becoming professional heroes until that dream finally became a reality. Currently, 80% of humanity has this characteristic, but unfortunately, the other 20% are people without a quirk, better known as quirkless, and the vast majority have suffered bullying, among other things. And this is unfortunately the case of our protagonist, a 4-year-old boy named Izuku Midoriya, who has just been given the heartbreaking news that he does not have a quirk. Garaki, serious, sorry kid, but tests indicate that you have 2 joints in your feet, which means you are incapable of having a quirk. It ended by shattering the little boy's dreams. This comment made him very shocked, and in the process he threw away a small figurine of his biggest idol, All Might. On the other hand, his mother Inko Midoriya felt very bad for her son since she knows how this new world works, so with nothing else to do, she thanked the doctor and took her son's hand to take him home. During the trip home he remained very silent. Inko occasionally glanced at her son, who was just looking down. When he finally got home, the little boy locked himself in his room and Inko went to check on her son, seeing him watching his favorite All Might video on the computer screen. Izuku, sad, Mom. Do you think I can be a great hero like him? He said, turning around to see his mother holding back the urge to cry and having a forced smile. Inko couldn't bear to see her son's condition, so like any mother, she approached him to give him a warm hug to try to calm him down. Inko, calm. Izuku. You can be whatever you want, and if you want to be a hero you have my support. My little hero. He said, beginning to caress his son's head where he let his tears fall, but this time they were of happiness. Izuku also began to hug his mother, where they stayed like that for a few minutes until they finally separated. Inko, calm. How are we going to eat? Dinner is ready, said Izuku, calmer. Yes, Mom, he said with a small smile. With this problem solved, mother and son happily went to eat dinner. But fate had different plans for the little green-haired boy. The next day, Izuku was arriving at his school where he met his best friend Katsuki Bakugo. Izuku began to get nervous because he didn't know what his reaction would be upon hearing the news. Izuku, nervously, Hola Kachin, said Bakugo, happy. Hello Izuku. Do you know what your quirk is? He asked this last thing. Izuku, nervous. Two don't have a quirk, he said, surprising his friend. Izuku had his eyes closed for fear that she would now know the news. He thought she would make fun of him or hit him, but Bakugo, compassionate. I'm really sorry Izuku. I know how much you wanted to be a hero, he said, surprising Izuku. Izuku, nervous and confused. Why, you're not going to make fun of me? Asked Bakugo, a little annoyed. Of course not. Why would I do that? You're my friend, said. At this Izuku began to shed tears of joy. Bakugo, a little uncomfortable. Hey, you don't have to cry, he said with a big drop of sweat running down his head. After this the children went to classes where they had to say what their quirk was until it was Izuku's turn, where he confessed that he didn't have a quirk, which caused the whole class, except Bakugo, to laugh at him. Bakugo, seeing this, got very angry, causing an explosion, scaring everyone in the room and attracting attention. Bakugo, angry. Okay extras, I'll only say it once and I don't plan on repeating it. If someone hurts my friend they'll have to deal with me, understood? He screamed, generating more explosions through his hands. Everyone, except Izuku, nodded their heads, mostly out of fear or reluctance. With that said, classes continued normally, although there were children whispering bad things about Izuku. The green-haired boy also told Bakugo that he plans to be a hero. He had his doubts, but seeing the great determination he had, or that he was very stubborn, he decided to support him like his mother. 4 years later. During this time, Bakugo has been protecting the green-haired boy as best he can, although there have also been times when he has been hurt. Other than that, it's been fine, for now. At the moment, Saigo no High Elementary School. Izuku was already 8 years old. He was in 3rd grade of elementary school where his classes finally ended and a large part of the school was gone. Where I live, a child in 3rd grade would be approximately 8 years old. Izuku was about to leave the classroom with Bakugo, but one of Izuku's bullies along with some of his henchmen were holding Bakugo back and the bully pulled Izuku back into the classroom. Arrogant, very well quirkless, now without your guard dog I can hurt you as long as I want, he said with a smile that scared Izuku while Bakugo tried to free himself from the henchman's grip. Bakugo, angry. If you hurt him I'll kill you, damn bastard, scream moving abruptly. Arrogant, now he suffers. Quirkless, he said, activating his quirk, turning his arms into stone to start hitting Izuku. The stalker began to hit Izuku's stomach, causing him to spit and fall to the floor holding his stomach, but he didn't stop there. When Izuku raised his head, he received another punch to the face, causing a small trickle of blood to come out of his mouth. Bakugo, annoyed, leave it, he said, throwing an explosion in the face of one of the henchmen and then punching the other henchman to finally free himself. Arrogant. And now for the final touches, said, seeing that Izuku was bleeding from his mouth and forehead. It's time to say goodbye, he said to punch him too hard in Izuku's face. What no one thought was going to happen was that Izuku found a window open behind him, causing him to fall off the building. The building had 3 floors and the callus was the last one. Everyone was shocked at what happened, where only a dry sound was heard. Henchman 1. Scared. What have you done? He asked when he saw what happened. Henchman 2. Scared. Are you crazy? Said. Scared, what? He was interrupted by a punch from Bakugo. Bakugo, angry and sad. Damn you, how dare you? He screamed with tears as he ran out of the room to the place where he fell, where he could only throw his friend on the floor, accompanied by a large pool of blood. Scared, Bakugo approached his friend and took Izuku's right arm to feel his pulse. His pulse was very weak. So he ran to find a school custodian to call emergency services. With luck, he was able to find one quickly, explain what happened, and then the custodian started dialing emergency services. An hour later, the police arrived along with a few heroes and paramedics, who, seeing Izuku's condition, put him on a stretcher as quickly as possible to take him to the hospital. The heroes and the police asked what happened. Their Bakugo confessed everything that happened. After this, the police and heroes discovered those responsible, so they took them to talk to the students' parents and told them that could have caused a homicide. Meanwhile, with Izuku, the green-haired man was already in the hospital and seemed to be unconscious. A few seconds later, Izuku's mother arrived crying. Inko, desperate. Izuku, please, stay with me, she said until some media appeared and grabbed her by the arms to take her outside. What are they doing? Said. Doctor, sad. I'm sorry, ma'am, but you can't be here. You'll have to wait in the waiting room, said. Inko, desperate. But I'm his mother and it is interrupted. Doctor, sad. Please understand, you must be in the waiting room. I know you are scared and worried about your son's condition, but you must wait outside, said. Inko glanced at Izuku and with all the pain in the world left the room. After this, the doctors began to work as best they could, but unfortunately for Izuku, he had lost a large amount of blood, making his skin very pale, and he seemed to have internal and external bleeding. The doctors, seeing this, tried to prevent further damage, but without warning, Izuku showed signs of a pulse, implying that he had died. Faced with this, the doctor gave Inko the news, which left her emotionally devastated. Weeks later, and his henchmen were blamed for Izuku's murder and they were going to hold his funeral, but for unknown reasons someone stole his body without a trace. Unknown location. There was a short, slightly fat old man, Garaki, dragging a sack containing Izuku's corpse towards an abandoned warehouse. Garaki, crazy. It's a shame for you, kid, but look on the bright side, at least you'll be reborn into something better than a useless quirkless, he said with a crazy smile. Upon arriving at the warehouse with Izuku, he bowed to a person with a disfigured face and tubes connected to his body. All for one, calm. I see you're back, doctor. What's the reason for your visit? Said Garaki, crazy and happy. Well, master, what I have in this sack is my test subject to turn into a Noma, said. All for one, calm and interested. Interesting. What kind of Nomu are you planning to create? Asked Garaki, crazy. I was thinking of somehow mixing the type of Nomu that is Kurogiri with another combat type. Said All for one, calm. I see, it sounds interesting, you have my permission to do so. Said. After this, Garaki began to work where he put Izuku in a capsule where he began to start his experiments on Izuku. 2 years later, Garaki seemed to have completed his goal of transforming Izuku into a Nomu, but he looked like a being made of fog. Garaki, happy, I finally did it. He said with great enthusiasm. All for one, calm, I see you've done it. Well done, doctor, said. Now that I think about it. What will you call this Nomu? Asked Garaki, happy, I already thought about that, and this will be his only one of its kind since it cost me more work than making Kurogiri because of the issue of adding more than one quirk. Although thanks to the fact that the child was quirkless he will be able to handle it, and I had to erase all his memories to make sure he doesn't have a future problem. Said. And regarding the name, it will be called Nomu, Daiden Shisade. All for one, calm, okay. Now why don't you take it out of the capsule to see if it works? He suggested that Garaki pay attention to him. Garaki went to the capsule to deactivate it and for it to open, releasing an Izuku covered in a black and dark green mist. It looks like that, only he's wearing the same clothes he did 2 years ago, only they're very worn out and have several holes in them, and the clothes are too small. Izuku began to slowly open his eyes until he finally opened them completely. Izuku, confused, what happened? Where am I? He turned to see Garaki and all for one. Who are you? He asked, and then saw his hands made of fog. What am I? Asked Garaki, happy, greetings. I am Dr. Garaki, but just call me doctor, said. Izuku, confused, okay, said. And who are you, sir? Asked All for one, calm, my name is All for one, but you can call me master, said. Izuku, calm, it's okay, master. Said. And what's my name? I don't remember, he said, scratching his head. Garaki, happy, your name is Daiden Shisade. Izuku, confused, is that my name? Asked Garaki, calm, that's right. Said. Izuku, calm, okay, said. All for one, calm, very well, Daiden Shi, now you just have to change those clothes. I'm going to contact Kurogiri to take you to the base, said. Izuku, confundido, Kurogiri. Miro Agaric and doctor, who is Kurogiri? He asked, looking at him. Garaki, calm, don't worry, you'll know in a few seconds, said. And as promised, in a few seconds a portal made of dark purple mist opened, revealing a being made of mist that came out, surprising Izuku. Kurogiri, quietly, master, what do you need? He said, looking at him. All for one, calm, I need you to take Daiden Shi to the base of the League of Villains, said. Kurogiri seemed confused by the name since he didn't know it, but he moved his head a little to look at Izuku. Both when they saw each other were surprised by their resemblance because of the fog, but Kurogiri changed his surprise to his usual calm attitude. Kurogiri, quiet, yes, master. He said to activate his quirk again by opening a portal. Let's go, Daiden Shihei said, entering through his own portal, and then Izuku followed him and both left, leaving Garaki and All for one alone. All for one, calm, and what kind of quirks did you give Daiden Shi? Asked Garaki, happy, I'm glad you asked, master. Said, well, I gave him a teleportation quirk similar to Kurogiri's, only it is weaker since he can only transport 10 people, including him. He must also think carefully about a place where he wants to go for his teleportation to work, and write down the other quirks on some notes. He said to go and take the notes. Notes. Quirks de Daiden Shi. 1. Teleportation. The description is already above. 2. Alteration. The quirk gives the user the ability to change the shape of his body or a single part of his body if he wishes. He can make it bigger, smaller. He can also make his body very sharp like swords, knives, or very resistant like diamonds, etc. It does not have a weakness as such, it depends on the circumstances. 3. Elasticity. The user has the ability to stretch any part of his body to a range of 1 kilometer. if he exceeds this limit he may suffer muscle pain, only the part stretched past the limit. 4. Advanced telekinesis. You can move things with your mind and can carry a maximum of 1 ton. If you exceed your limit you will get severe headaches. 5. Empower. Occurs during moments of intense mental focus and concentration or is turned on by the user's willpower to amplify their power and physical abilities, making them faster, stronger, etc. When activated it radiates waves of power and generates a colored aura. There is no weakness as such, but it could be tiredness. 6. Enhanced reflexes. Helps him move faster if he needs to. If this quirk evolves it could be a kind of sixth sense or a kind of danger sensor. End of notes. Garaki, happy, what do you think, master? Asked. All for one, they are very good quirks, I admit it, now go back to your work, said. After this all for one sat in his chair and Garaki left the place. League of Villains base bar. Kurogiri was already with Izuku at the base where the little Nomu began to walk from one side to the other full of curiosity about everything there was until a young man of approximately 15 years old came out of a door with a pair of hands around his body including his face. Izuku, Shigaraki, confused, upset, Kurogiri, who is he? They asked at the same time pointing at each other. Kurogiri, Shigaraki, meet the doctor's new Nomu, his name is Daiden Shisade. Shigaraki, annoyed, whatever. Don't bother me, said. Izuku continued looking around the bar with curiosity until he saw the television there, so he approached and started playing it until he finally turned it on. On television. Reporter, quiet, I'm informed that recently All Might, the current hero and symbol of peace, arrested a villain made of mud who had escaped from the Tartaros prison a few weeks ago, said. He said and then showed a video where All Might saved a civilian from the villain with his characteristic smile, confusing Izuku with this. Off TV. Izuku, confused, hey Shigaraki, do you know why All Might smiles like that? Asked. Shigaraki, annoyed, I don't know, said. Izuku stared at the television for a few moments before turning it off. Izuku began to look everywhere until he found a small notebook next to a pencil where he began to write something. Notebook. All Might. Quirk. Unknown. It seems to have such a powerful force that when it throws a punch it can create a large air current. I need more data. After writing this in the small notebook, Kurogiri calls him. Kurogiri calmly, Daiden, come with me so I can give you new clothes and show you the bedroom where you'll sleep, said. Izuku without complaining went with Kurogiri but not before putting the small notebook in one of his pockets. Then Kurogiri gave him clothes, it is the same clothes that were in the prologue image, and then took Izuku to his new room so he could change and in a few moments later come out with his clothes already on. Izuku, I like these clothes, said looking at his new outfit. Thank you very much, Kurogiri said. Kurogiri, you're welcome, now you should rest, said. The little Nomu simply nodded to re-enter his room where he began to look at it in detail, where he saw his bed which looked comfortable. A small desk and in front of it had a window where you could see that it was night and on the left side there was a drawer. Izuku wasn't really sleepy so he just sat on the chair in his room and stared out the window, contemplating the stars and the moon. An hour passed like this until he finally fell asleep, but at the desk. The next day, sunlight entered through Izuku's window, making a small groan, then getting up and stretching a little, then leaving his room and arriving at the bar from before where he could see a Kurogiri cleaning some glasses and a Shigaraki watching television. Izuku, good morning, said. Kurogiri, Shigaraki, quiet, upset, good morning, Daiden, hello. They spoke at the same time. After this the television vision changed from showing their broadcast to showing All for One on the screen. All for One, good morning, said. Izuku, Kurogiri, Shigaraki, surprised, good morning, master, they said at the same time. All for One, Daiden, I must inform you what your quirks are since the doctor forgot to tell you, said. All for One began to tell Izuku the quirks he possesses, surprising him, Kurogiri, and Shigaraki. Izuku, while he was listening, was writing in his small notebook the quirks he has, as well as writing the possibilities of how he could take advantage of these quirks, and he also began to murmur. All for One, confused, what are you doing, Daiden, asked. Izuku, a little embarrassed, oh, sorry, I was writing in this notebook the ways to take advantage of my quirks, said. All for One, interested, okay, can you show me what you have? asked. Izuku simply brought his small notebook closer to the screen where All for One began to read and was impressed. All for One, surprised, this is fascinating. He said, surprising Kurogiri as well as Tamura, but seconds later the latter got a little upset. How did you do this in such a short time? Asked. Izuku, thoughtful, honestly, I have no idea, I just know that those ideas came to my head and I felt like I had to write them down. Said. All for One, calm, okay. I'll ask Kurogiri to take you to the doctor and I also want you to show him your notebook. Said. Izuku, calm, okay, said. Kurogiri just nodded to open a purple portal and he entered along with Izuku. After this the doctor was amazed and proud of Izuku for his notes. Garaki, happy, this is amazing Daiden she. Said. Izuku, happy and calm, thank you very much doctor said. Garaki, happy, now you just have to learn to use your quirks, although Kurogiri's teleportation quirk will help you. For the other quirks, I contacted Jiren in advance to find Stain, the hero killer, and I taught you something about combat. Said. The little Nomu had no idea what the doctor was talking about, but he did understand one thing, and that was that Kurogiri and a certain Stain were going to help him with his quirks. Izuku, calm, it's okay, doctor. Said. Garaki, calm, Kurogiri, you can take him back to the base. I don't know what time he will arrive, they rotate with Stain, so it's better you take him. Said. Kurogiri, calm, yes, doctor. Said. Kurogiri took Izuku back to the league base. Izuku stayed at the base watching television bored. He was like that for 1 hour until two people arrived, a middle-aged man smoking who was next to a man of approximately 30 years old with strange clothing, but the most notable thing was that he had combat knives and a katana. Kurogiri, calm, welcome Jiren, an assassin of heroes. Stain said. Jiren, confident, well, as I promised, I brought Stain. Now if you excuse me, I'm leaving. I have other things to do. After that he left there. Stain, a little annoyed, what do they want from me? Asked. Kurogiri, quietly, Stain, could you be so kind as to train Daiden she? He asked, pointing at Izuku, why he simply greeted Stain. Stain, seriously, that kid may have manners but he's not worthy of my time, and he was interrupted by Izuku. Izuku, quiet, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but please, I'll show you what I'm capable of doing. Also, I want to know more about you. Said. Stain, hearing all this, knew that he wasn't lying, and he could also feel a great determination coming from Izuku. He also knew that if he refused, the little Nomu would have continued to insist. So the killer just gave a tired sigh and then just nodded his head. Izuku, happy, thank you very much Mr. Stainhei said, bowing to the aforementioned. Kurogiri, calm, well now that Stain is going to train you, I'm going to take you and him to a place where you can train. He said to open a portal where they entered, and once they entered the portal disappeared. Meanwhile with Izuku and Stain, they reached their destination where they were in a forest. The forest is the same one in which Shigaraki faces Gigantomachia, and he is in another forest. Stain, serious, very well, I was told that you have a maximum of 6 quirks, can you tell me what they are? Said. Izuku, calm, teleportation, alteration, elasticity, advanced telekinesis, enhanced reflexes. Said. Stain, serious, well, have you ever used them? Asked. Izuku, a little discouraged, unfortunately not. Said. At this, Stain was in a little shock, wondering how he has 6 quirks and doesn't know how to use any of them. Stain sighed again, only to quickly pull out a combat knife and throw it at Izuku's head. This surprised the little Nomu, but unconsciously his 6th quirk, enhanced reflexes, activated to dodge the attack. Izuku was going to complain if he didn't have to dodge more knives until he caught a knife. Uso took out his katana to begin fighting against Izuku, where thanks to his 6th quirk he was able to block only Stain's attacks with the knife. Stain decided to end the fight, so he took out his last knife and then threw it at Izuku, who was able to dodge but couldn't react to a punch to the face from Stain, knocking him to the ground in the process. Izuku, a little sore and annoyed, what was all that, Mr. Stain? He asked, slowly getting up. Stain, serious, that was your training. Even if you don't believe it, you activated your 6th quirk, said, surprising Izuku. Izuku, intrigued, I see, although when it came to dodging his attacks I did feel faster. Said. Stain, serious, this was to activate your quirk. Said. Izuku, calm, understood, said. Stain, serious, now let's continue. He said to go towards Izuku to attack him. This is how Izuku and Stain spent their time training Izuku's quirks, mainly with the sixth quirk, until it started to get dark and Kurogiri had arrived to take them to the base. At the base, a portal began to open from which Stain and Izuku came out, both tired, mainly Izuku. Stain, a little tired, you did well for your first brat workout, said. Izuku, very tired, thank you very much. Mr. Stain said. After this, Stain simply said goodbye, saying he would return tomorrow, and then left the base. Stain, keeping his promise, continued training Izuku, and Kurogiri also helped him with his teleportation. 4 years later. In all this time Stain and Kurogiri, mostly Stain, trained Izuku like never before, where he could better control his quirks, mostly enhanced reflexes, teleportation and power-up. He also learned combat with Stain and learned to use combat knives. In addition, Izuku grew an appreciation for these two, Stain and Kurogiri, seeing them both as his teachers, but he saw Stain as a kind of father figure, but he had to leave to continue on his path of killing heroes. Also in his free time he spent watching the news, where he wrote down in his small notebook the strengths and weaknesses of the heroes, mostly weaknesses, and he also spent time with Garaki. There was something they had in common, was that they liked to know a lot about quirks. Garaki also showed Izuku one of his experiments. Garaki told him that what fascinates him most about his experiments is knowing how they interact, or knowing what the doctor's maximum potential is in these factors. Over time, Izuku acquired this habit of the doctor, although it was more curiosity instead of fascination. And with Stain's influence on the false heroes, this curiosity towards the heroes began to be seen as Garaki's experiments. He wanted to know the heroes' motivations, as well as their true intentions, etc. At the moment, it was dawn and the sun's rays invaded Izuku's room, causing him to wake up. Izuku stood up and stretched a little. Izuku calmly, yawn, well, new day, same routine, said. Izuku left his room heading towards the base. Izuku, calm, good morning everyone, he said, entering. Kurogiri, Shigaraki, quiet, upset, good morning Daidenshi, hello. They spoke. Izuku, calm, and what are we going to do today? Asked. Shigaraki, annoyed, I'm prepared to attack Ua and kill All Might, said. Izuku, confused, and how will you do that? Asked. Shigaraki, annoyed, there's a rumor that All Might is a professor at Ua this year, so I'll use that rumor to my advantage to get into Ua and grab some stuff, he said, surprising Izuku. Izuku, calm, that actually sounds good, said. Shigaraki, angry, did you have doubts? Asked. Izuku, calm, just a little. Sorry, said. Shigaraki, very angry, whatever. I already told the news about the rumor, so it will only be a matter of time before they go to UAH, he said while taking a glass and then disintegrating it because of how angry he was. Kurogiri, take me near UA. The aforementioned only nodded and opened a portal where only Shigaraki crossed it, which closed seconds later. 20 minutes later, Kurogiri received a call and a few seconds later hung up to begin creating a portal from which Shigaraki emerged with some papers. Shigaraki, serious, I got it, he said, throwing the papers on the bar table. Izuku just walked over and started reading the papers. Izuku, interested, so a class from the hero course is going to go to the USJ accompanied by Eraserhead, 13 and All Might, said. Shigaraki, serious, if we're going to kill him there, said. Izuku, doubtful, how are we going to do that? Asked. Shigaraki, serious, the doctor has been working on a new Nomu that will live up to All Might, said. Izuku, calm, I wonder if All Might can beat Nomu or if Nomu will really kill All Might, he thought. While thinking this, Shigaraki was talking to Kurogiri even though he wasn't paying attention to what they were saying. After coming out of his thoughts he saw Shigaraki was about to leave through a portal that Kurogiri thought. Izuku, confused, where are you going? Asked. Shigaraki, serious, I'm going to find a couple of idiots to support us in the attack on the USJH, he said, and then left through the portal. Izuku, having nothing else to do, took the papers stolen from Ua and began to read them until he saw a list of the class that was going to go to USJ where it said, Class 1A. I tried to check if there was more information about Class 1A, but there was nothing more than that, leaving me wondering who Class 1A was. Then he started watching the news where they talked about the heroes, and Izuku simply wrote down the names of the heroes as well as their quirks to later look for their weaknesses, etc., until the hours passed and Shigaraki finally returned. Izuku, quiet, welcome back, he said, still writing in his notebook. Shigaraki, a little annoyed, shut up, said. Izuku, calm, were you able to recruit villains to help us? He asked to finally see him. Shigaraki, serious, yes. I convinced some idiots to help us in the attack, said. Izuku, calm, that's good. While you were gone I checked the papers again and the attack will be tomorrow, said. Shigaraki, serious, como si. He said and then left. Izuku gave a small yawn and turned back to the television to check the time, noticing that it was already 11 p.m., so he simply went to his room to rest. The next day, the little Nomu was with Kurogiri, Shigaraki and the Nomu that was going to finish off All Might when Izuku said something without thinking. Izuku, confused, a chicken on steroids. He asked, looking at the Nomu. Shigaraki, angry, no, idiot. Forget it. He said to see the villains he recruited. Okay, listen, you can cause all the chaos you want. I don't care, just don't mess with All Might. Nomu will finish him off, said. After this, Kurogiri opened a portal from which the villains entered and only he, Izuku, Shigaraki and Nomu remained. Shigaraki, serious, okay, let's go, he said and then entered through the portal accompanied by Nomu, Izuku and Kurogiri. I want to clarify that Izuku's villain suit is the suit I showed earlier, the only difference is that it has a belt where he keeps combat knives. One left USJ. Class 1A was arriving at the USJ accompanied by their tutor Eraserhead, along with the heroine from I Rescued 13 and nothing else. What happened to All Might? I think we already know. 13 had finished giving his speech about how quirks should be used correctly, when Kurogiri's portal began to open, confusing everyone but one got excited. Hiroshima, happy, great. It has fake villains, said. Aizawa, serious, they are not fake, they are real villains. He said, scaring the students. 13. Protect the students, he said and then went towards the horde of villains. Shigaraki, serious, Kurogiri, take care of 13 and the student, she ordered, looking at Kurogiri and then looking at Izuku. I don't care what you do, just don't mess with All Might or Nomu or I'll kill you, he said in a threatening manner, although the little Nomu gave it little importance. Izuku, calm, understood. Well, I'll go explore the place while Eraserhead approaches, he said and then created a portal to the collapsed zone. While Izuku was heading to the collapsed area, Kurogiri did his part of the plan where he immobilized 13 and transported the students to different parts of UA. They were teleported to the same places as in the anime. And Shigaraki simply watched as Eraserhead arrived at Shigaraki's location. Returning to Izuku, Izuku spent his time walking around looking everywhere with some curiosity. He also noticed that some villains entered some buildings to wait for the students to arrive at the collapsed area. He continued walking until he began to hear sounds of explosions and bangs. His curiosity grew, so he went towards the building where the noise originated. He continued walking until he reached the floor where the sound was coming from, only to see a blonde boy and a red-haired boy who looked like they had finished off all the villains that were in the building. The protagonist approached the students as if it were the most normal thing in the world. The students, upon noticing his presence, stood guard. Izuku, calm, nice to meet you. My name is Daiden Shi and I'm a member of the League of Villains, said. Bakugo narrates. Hello or whatever, I'm Katsuki Bakugo, aspiring to be the next #1 hero. To be honest, I hate introductions, but I think it's relevant just this once. At the age of 4 I manifested my quirk like the other children, but there was one who didn't. His name is Izuku Midoriya and he is my best friend, although I'm sure that knowing that he doesn't have a quirk discouraged him, but he is very determined, or stubborn, to give up on his dream of being a hero. I really wasn't sure whether to support him or not, since he's very dangerous even for a hero, and I'm sure that if I hadn't supported him, he would still be pursuing that dream. When the children found out that Izuku was quirkless, they made fun of him, but I defended him and threatened all the children that if they hurt him I would take care of them. 4 years passed in which I defended Izuku as best I could, and he also gave me some advice to improve my quirk, as well as drawing some plans for some support artifacts to amplify my explosions. Everything was going well until that damn day. Izuku and I were about to go home until some idiots who were bullying Izuku arrived where activated his quirk to start hitting Izuku. I tried to help him but henchman prevented me from doing so. By the time I was free, that damn idiot gave Izuku one last blow, but that powerful blow sent him out the window. When I heard the sound of something crunching, I felt an enormous rage towards and an immense pain when I thought about the worst that could have happened to Izuku. The first thing I did was hit that idiot in the face, and then I went to see Izuku. Seeing his condition, he was stupefied. I approached him to check his pulse, which was very slow. I was starting to get desperate, so I went back to school to find a school worker as quickly as possible. I was lucky enough to find one. When I told him about Izuku, he called an ambulance and the police. After this happened 1 hour later, help had finally arrived to take Izuku to the nearest hospital. I was hoping he would survive, but the world is a shithole. Later that day at the hospital, they declared him dead. This made my aunt, Inko, fall into a deep depression for the loss of Izuku. My mom, Mitsuki Bakugo, offered Inko to move in with us to watch over her since it was not advisable to leave her alone. She wanted to refuse, but after several pleas from my mom to my aunt, she ended up accepting. Meanwhile, I respect the news. I felt disappointed in myself for not being able to help my friend when he needed me most, and to make things worse, weeks later my aunt Inko was notified that Izuku's body disappeared. After all this, I changed my attitude to a more serious one, and my hero motivation changed. Now I wanted to be a hero to prevent innocent people from losing a loved one, like what happened to my aunt. At the moment, I find myself in the USJ defeating real villains along with my partner Kirishima. It seemed like we had already defeated them all, but we heard someone's footsteps approaching. End of the story. Izuku, calm, nice to meet you. My name is Daidenshi and I'm a member of the League of Villains, said Bakugo. Upon hearing that he was part of the League of Villains, was preparing his explosions to attack him until Izuku spoke. Izuku, calm, I must admit that they have some incredible quirks, and they also defeated the villains with relative ease, he said, looking at the pile of villains around them. Bakugo, serious, what does your stupid group want? He said, generating small explosions to try to threaten him. Izuku, calm, we are here to kill All Might with a biological weapon, he said, as if nothing had happened. Bakugo, serious, I won't let that happen, said. After saying this, Bakugo went towards Izuku to give him an explosion, but thanks to his improved reflexes he dodged the attack without a problem so that Izuku could counterattack, giving Bakugo a powerful punch, causing him to groan in pain. Kirishima ran towards Izuku. By the time he was close to the protagonist, he activated his quirk to harden his arms. Izuku noticed this, so he used his advanced telekinesis to send 2 villains flying towards Kirishima. The little Nomu activated his alteration quirk to make his hands bigger to start hitting Kirishima. Fortunately, the redhead activated his quirk all over his body to say the least damage possible. Bakugo once recovered from Izuku's blow and saw how he was hitting Kirishima. Seeing this, he remembered how Izuku was hit by, making him very angry. Bakugo, angry, hey idiot! I screamed, getting Izuku's attention. Shiny! He shouted again to launch his attack. Kirishima, seeing that he was distracted by seeing Bakugo, punched Izuku in the face, stunning him a little, and after recovering, he saw Bakugo's attack approaching him. For Izuku, in those moments everything seemed to go in slow motion. He simply closed his eyes and took a deep breath. When he opened his eyes, they shone too brightly and changed color to a dark green, even letting out an aura of the same color as his eyes, implying that he had activated his enhanced quirk. Quickly, Izuku used power-up plus enhanced reflexes to barely dodge the huge explosion. When he finished doing that, he ran at great speed towards Bakugo to jump using both legs plus elasticity, stretching his legs more to cause more force in his attack, causing him to fly crashing into a wall. This blow knocked out Bakugo. Kirishima was going to attack Izuku if it weren't for the fact that Izuku still used the elasticity in his arms to grab Kirishima's legs and begin slamming him off the floor and ceiling at high speed. Once he finished hitting Kirishima several times, he gently placed him on the floor. The aforementioned lifted his head with difficulty due to the pain. Izuku, calm. To be honest, you and your friend are the first to face me other than my father, so well done, I think. Said, I just have one question before I go, he said, taking Kirishima's face with both hands, bringing him closer to himself, scaring the redhead. Izuku, excited and crazy. Why do you want to be a hero? He said, still holding Kirishima's face. Kirishima, scared and determined. I want to be like the hero Crimson Riot. I admire him a lot, he's really manly. Sometimes I think my quirk isn't as great as Bakugo's, but despite that, I'm never going to back down. It doesn't matter if I'm scared. It doesn't matter if I'm hurt. The important thing to me is to be the most manly hero in the world, concluded Izuku, calm. I see, well that was all I wanted to know, thanks for your time he said to then create a portal. It was a pleasure meeting you and your friend. Goodbye he said to enter the portal and leave from there. The little Nomu had returned to the center of USJ only to see that Nomu was humiliating Aizawa. Izuku, calm. Wow, seriously, what Nomu is humiliating him? It almost makes me want to feel sorry for Eraserhead he said, drawing Shigaraki's attention. Shigaraki, annoyed. What have you been doing? Asked. Izuku, calm. You had told me that you didn't care what I did and that I shouldn't intervene when Nomu fights All Might said. Shigaraki remained silent but now he was very angry with Izuku, even though he knew he was right. Shigaraki, annoyed. Whatever. The cry to Izuku Kurogiri returned a few seconds later through one of his portals. Kurogiri, calm. Shigaraki one of the students ran away and is heading to Ua, I'm sorry said. Shigaraki, angry. Damn it Kurogiri I'm going he was interrupted by Izuku. Izuku, calm. Don't worry Kurogiri, everyone makes mistakes and seeing it another way, if the student warns the Ua, the first to arrive, it will most likely be All Might, said. Shigaraki, serious. Well, if with that All Might arrives sooner, all the better, but before he arrives, let's kill one of his students. I screamed to run towards Mineta and grab the dwarf with great force but nothing happened since Aizawa was using his quirk on him. Izuku seeing this simply walked slowly towards Aizawa and covered his eyes so he couldn't see Shigaraki. Izuku, calm. You can use your quirk again, Shigaraki, said. Shigaraki was going to touch Mineta's face again but Melissa launched herself at Shigaraki to attack him, which surprised everyone, except Aizawa since he couldn't see because of Izuku. Melissa, angry, stay away from my friends. He screamed trying to hit the 5% but ended up being blocked by the Nomu who stood between them, surprising Melissa. That? He asked seeing the speed of the Nomu. Izuku, surprised. He threw himself into danger even though he could die, only someone else would do that and he's surely All Might, but he's the only true hero that exists within this world of fake heroes so it's impossible for him to be a real heroine, maybe he only did that to deceive me, he thought. Shigaraki, serious. That was a good hit, but it was no use, said. Shigaraki was going to say something else until the doors slammed open revealing an angry All Might. Toshinori, angry. Everything is fine because I'm here, he shouted and then went towards the horde of villains. All Might began to defeat all the villains there were with relative ease until he reached the center of the USJ where he kept Aizawa and the students away from the villains. Toshinori, seriously. Students, please leave and protect Professor Aizawa, he said to go at high speed towards Shigaraki California Smash. He screamed, launching his attack, but Nomu got in the middle to protect Shigaraki again. The Nomu continued as if nothing had happened, which surprised the symbol of peace and brought a big smile to Shigaraki's face. Shigaraki, arrogant, don't even bother All Might, Nomu is specifically made to kill you said. Here Shigaraki revealed Nomu's quirks, and the fight between All Might and Nomu ended the same as in the anime, except that Kirishima and Bakugo weren't watching the fight, and Todoroki was the one who stopped the Nomu when it almost killed All Might. Other than that, everything is the same. Shigaraki, annoyed, it's not fair, you cheated, said. Izuku, calm. I knew Nomu wouldn't beat All Might, after all we're talking about a real hero said. Shigaraki, annoyed. You already sound like him, said. Izuku, calmly. What can I say? He's my role model, and I also see him as my father, said. Kurogiri, calm. The Nomu was defeated Shigaraki, it's best to leave before the heroes arrive said. Izuku, calm. You can go, I'll look for Nomu, and I can return to the base on my own, said. Shigaraki, annoyed. If you get caught, I won't be held responsible, said. With that said Kurogiri opened a portal where Shigaraki entered, only to close seconds later leaving only the small Nomu looking at the symbol of peace. Toshinori, serious. What's up, villain? Didn't you want to kill me? he said, trying to scare Izuku, but he was not affected. Izuku, calm. Being honest, if Nomu killed you, the world would lose the only true hero that exists, filled with a world of false heroes causing society to fall, which would be a disgrace, he said as if nothing had happened. Toshinori. Serious? If that's true, why did they try to kill me? Asked. Izuku, calm. I just wanted to see how the symbol of peace surpassed himself to save his students, but my teacher says that you are an obstacle to achieving his goals, said. Toshinori. Serious and surprised. Master? He thought. Izuku, quiet. Well, I've talked enough now. If you excuse me, all might I should go get the Nomu before the other teachers get here, and he couldn't stop talking as he had to dodge an ice attack from Todoroki. Todoroki, serious, you're not going to escape, villain, he said threateningly, looking at Izuku. Izuku, calm. I'm sorry, but I don't have time to waste. I'll just go for the Nomu, and I stop talking because I have to dodge an explosion from Bakugo who had arrived. Bakugo, angry, you heard it, you won't get away. Shout. Izuku, a little annoyed, I'm being nice to you fake heroes, I don't have time for this, I'll just get Nomu and leave, said. Bakugo, angry, fake, he said, generating explosions with his hands. Izuku looked ahead where he could see Bakugo, and behind him he could feel the cold that Todoroki was taking out of his right side, implying that he was surrounded, so he just sighed. Izuku, serious, not only are they false heroes, but they also don't know how to listen, said. Well, what does it matter? Anyway, this way I'll know what their motivations are for being heroes, he thought. Once I stop thinking simply, he activated his second quirk, alteration, to make his arms and legs strong like All Might's, causing parts of his clothes to break. The sleeves on his arms were completely broken, while his pants were torn like Hulk's. For a second later he activated his fifth quirk, Empower, where he released a large dark green aura. Bakugo, serious, no matter what tricks you do, you won't escape from here. He shouted to use his explosions, going at high speed towards Izuku to give him an explosion in the face, but he was not affected by the attack. A second later, Izuku grabbed Bakugo's face with his right hand, using too much force, making the blonde grimace in pain. Izuku, serious, I'll give you some advice. When fighting your opponent, you should never get carried away by anger, otherwise you will become predictable when attacking, he said to give a powerful punch to the blonde's face, sending him crashing into a tree. Todoroki began attacking Izuku with large amounts of ice, but he destroyed them with his bare fists, and when he broke the ice he used his fourth quirk, Advanced Telekinesis, sending the pieces of ice flying in the direction of the bicolor as if they were projectiles, forcing him to create a wall of ice to cover himself from the attack. With this, Izuku took advantage of this to run at great speed towards where the bicolor was to hit the ice wall with force, breaking it and sending the bicolor flying with the attack. Izuku returned to his original form to use his third quirk, Elasticity, to stretch his arms in the direction of Bakugo and Todoroki to grab them tightly by the neck. Izuku, serious, you know, I'm really curious about all of you. Why do you want to be heroes, fame, women, money? He said, still holding the neck of both. Todoroki, pained. I'm going to be a hero without the help of my left side B by showing the old man that I don't need his power, he said with difficulty. Izuku, serious. Really, Todoroki, right? Let me tell you, you're not giving your full potential, and if you really want to become a hero, you must use 100% of yourself. Otherwise that would cost the lives of innocent people one day. In short, your motivation sounds more like a tantrum of not wanting to use all your power. How boring, Gus said, holding the bicolor's neck tighter until he left him without air, becoming unconscious, and a second later he dropped him to the floor. Izuku turned to see Bakugo. Izuku, serious, tell me, what motivates you to be a hero? He asked, still holding Bakugo's neck. Bakugo, pained, before I wanted to become a hero that surpassed All Might along with my best friend, but he ended up being AQ quirkless, and then some idiots caused his homicide. When that happened, my motivation to be a hero changed. Now I wanted to be one to protect the quirkless like I did with my friend, as well as being a hero that makes him proud of me, he said with difficulty, letting tears of frustration fall as he remembered his friend's death. Izuku, surprised and interested. It can't be, he whispered, and then carefully lowered Bakugo and released him from his neck, causing him to start breathing again. You know, when I heard the part about wanting to surpass All Might, I thought you were an arrogant person who only thought about yourself, But when I heard the rest I found it somewhat impressive, although I have heard of cases of quirkless who suffered from bullying among many horrible things, so I'm just going to tell you this. Maybe I don't see you as a true hero, but your motivation is admirable and that's why you've earned my respect, said. Meanwhile with Bakugo, he had heard everything the little Nomu said but he kept trying to catch his breath. Izuku, quiet. Now if you excuse me I have to go get Nomuhei said to activate his fourth quirk, advanced telekinesis, and fly away through the hole where Nomu had come from. Izuku had finally escaped from the USJ, flying, searching everywhere where Nomu was until he finally found him, but at the time of finding him some police officers also discovered him so he simply used his first quirk to escape from there with Nomu finally recovered. Already at the base of the league, the small Nomu had arrived accompanied by the large Nomu through a portal that closed a second later. Kurogiri, quietly, welcome back he said, cleaning a glass. Shigaraki, serious, I thought they had already captured you, said. Izuku, calm. I was delayed because some students didn't want me to go for Nomu. The good thing is that I made up for it said, patting the Nomu on the back. Kurogiri, quiet. Well done Dayton Shi said Izuku, happy and calm. Thanks Kurogiri said. The screen started to light up showing all for one. All for one, calm. And how did the attack go? Asked. Izuku, calm. The Nomu lost against All Might but I was able to recover I said pointing to the Nomu. All for one, calm. I see, it's a shame but I'm glad you'll get the Nomu back, said. Shigaraki, angry. It's not fair master. All Might cheated. He said he was getting weaker but he's still strong, said. All for one, calm. Don't worry Shigaraki, just because All Might beat Nomu doesn't mean he hasn't weakened from that fight, said. Izuku, calm. And now what are we going to do, master? Asked. All for one, calm. Let's recruit an old friend, he said confusedly to everyone in the bar. Meanwhile at the USJ, the teachers finally defeated the villains. The students seemed unharmed except for Bakugo, Kirishima and Todoroki due to the injuries caused by Dayton Shi, Izuku. Authorities and paramedics had also arrived at the scene to treat the injured. Quietly, Detective Tsukachi, he said approaching the detective. Tsukachi, confused. What's going on? Asked. Calm. We had found a suspicious villain in the forest. We were about to capture him but a boy made of fog had arrived and took the villain with him in a portal made of fog said. This left the detective thinking for a few seconds. Tsukachi, quiet. I'll ask the students. Said with that he began to ask all the students about Dayton Shi until Melissa told him that she was able to see it in addition to the fact that the Nomu, Izuku, faced Bakugo and Todoroki and also showed more than one quirk. But later, the detective told this to All Might, surprising him, and he also remembered Izuku's words, so he told them to Tsukachi and asked the detective to please tell the director of the academy what he knew. Ua Academy. Director Nezu's office. The detective gave this information to Director Nezu, which surprised him. Nezu, surprised. A boy made of fog with more than one quirk defeated the strongest first-year students. He also seemed to admire All Might, but his teacher wanted All Might dead? Asked. Tsukachi, serious, yes, and it also seems that the Nomu that All Might faced also possessed more than one quirk and only followed orders, said. Nezu, calm. I see, if more Nomus appear this continues, it will be a big problem in the future, said. Tsukachi, calm. I'm afraid so. By the way, what are you going to do with the events prepared for the UA? For example, are you going to cancel the sports festival? Said. Nezu, calm. I'm not going to do it, but I'll give the students 2 days off to recover from the events at USJ, said. With all this clarified, the detective left and the principal contacted the teachers to discuss the sports festival. Back with the base of the league, Izuku was at the bar watching the news on the small television where he saw the heroes writing down information about themselves, etc., until they changed the news to show something else. On television. News. In other news, we were informed that the USJ was attacked by a group calling themselves the League of Villains with the objective of killing All Might. Fortunately, the symbol of peace was able to defeat the villain and most of the villains were captured. In addition, 3 students were injured by a boy made of fog who accompanied the League and off TV. The little Nomu became nervous upon hearing this last thing. Izuku, a little nervous. I hope he didn't see this news. Surely he's not very busy doing his job, right? He thought. Izuku continued to think about that until the television caught his attention again. On television. News. Furthermore, director Nezu decided to continue with the sports festival despite the attack on the USJ, assuring that they will improve security to avoid further problems. Off TV. This discouraged Izuku a little because he wanted to go see the sports festival, mainly because of the quirks, since in previous years he had seen them on television. Izuku, a little discouraged, It's a shame I can't go see the sports festival in person. He thought to give a sigh to calm down. Well, I'll have to watch it on TV. He thought to go to his room. When he got to his room he just lay down on his bed and fell asleep a few seconds later. Days later. Izuku was watching the broadcast of the sports festival on the base's television with some curiosity and excitement. Until they showed Bakugo to give his speech while this was watched by Izuku on television, making him pay more attention. On television. Sports festival. Bakugo, serious and calm. I've never given a speech, but I just want to tell you to give your best effort. But in case I win, I want to dedicate my victory to my best friend Izuku Midoriya, he said, moving a large part of the people present. Off TV. Izuku was also somewhat moved. He also remembered what Bakugo told him when he interrogated him. Izuku, calm. You really earned my respect, Katsuki Bakugo, he thought as he continued looking at the screen. The little Nomu continued looking at the festival even though the least expected thing for him was seeing the girls from Class 1A in cheerleading outfits. This made Izuku's cheeks turn slightly green. He blushed. When he saw this, apart from this, the most interesting thing for him were the individual battles, mainly the battle of Melissa versus Todoroki and the final battle of Bakugo versus Todoroki, giving the blonde as the winner. On television. Sports festival. Toshinori, happy. Now everyone say after me. Shout. Audience. Toshinori, happy. Plus ultra, great job. They shouted at the same time. Off TV. Izuku, seeing this, couldn't help but let out a small laugh at All Might's mistake. Izuku, amused. It seems the symbol of peace makes the dumbest mistakes of all, he thought, and then turned off the television. Kurogiri, calmly. How was the sports festival? He asked, looking at Izuku. Izuku, calm. It was interesting. Better than previous years, in fact, said. Kurogiri, quiet. I'm glad to hear that, Daidan said. Izuku, calm. Anyway, I also saw several interesting quirks among many other things. Now I want to write down everything I saw, so I'm going to my room, said. Kurogiri, calm. It's okay, go to sleep early, said. Izuku, calm. Well said. With that said, he went to his room to write down all the important information he saw at the sports festival. The next day. Izuku was getting up from his chair at his desk, which was being covered by a blanket, and on it was stuck a note that he took to see what it said. I told you to go to bed early, but I knew you wouldn't obey and would go to sleep late, so I put this blanket on you so you wouldn't get cold. Attendant. Kurogiri out of the note. Once he finished reading the note, he began to fold the blanket and gently place it on his bed before leaving his room and heading towards the bar. Izuku, calmly, yawned good morning, and he was interrupted by Kurogiri. Kurogiri, quietly, I told you to go to sleep early, he said, looking at the little Nomu, who lowered his head in shame. Izuku, a little embarrassed, I'm sorry, said Kurogiri, quietly, it doesn't matter, the master asked me to pick up the recruit, so wait here, said. Izuku, calm. It's okay, said Kurogiri, created a portal through which he left. When Kurogiri left, Izuku's cell phone received a notification about the news. He began to read the news that was mostly about the sports festival, but the news that caught his attention the most had the name of Stain. Izuku was reading the news about how Stain had disabled a hero, ignoring everything around him and not noticing that Kurogiri had returned with the recruit. Kurogiri, calmly, hey Daidan, I bet you'll like the recruit and I'm sure he likes you too, said. Izuku, calm. Sorry Kurogiri, I was reading a news about he couldn't finish speaking when he lowered his cell phone to see the recruit accompanied. The little Nomu was in a little shock when he saw what it was. Izuku, happy, father, he said, running towards Stain, giving him a hug. At this, Stain remained silent, but, as a sign of affection, he stroked his son's head. Stain, calm. I missed you too, he said. Seconds later he finished petting the little Nomu. Seconds later Izuku finished hugging Stain. Izuku, calm. And what brings you here, father? Asked. Stain, calm. Apparently Shigaraki wants me to join the league even if it's temporary, said. Izuku, calm. That's good and I hope this doesn't interfere with your work, said. Stain, calm. Don't worry, he won't, said by the way he said, getting Izuku's attention. Izuku, confused. Yes? Asked Stain, serious. It's true that you defeated 3 Ua brats in the USJ attack, he said, making Izuku a little nervous. Izuku. A little nervous, you Yes? Said Stain, raised his hand, scaring Izuku a little, so out of fear he closed his eyes, but the only thing he felt was Stain coming back to caress his head. Stain, proud. That's my son, he said with a small smile, and seconds later he stopped caressing and returned to his previous face. Shigaraki, serious, until you finally arrive, he said as he entered the bar, looking at Stain. Stain, seriously. Remember that I will only be here temporarily at the request of your master, said. Shigaraki, annoyed. Whatever, let's attack Hosu City with some Nomus to create chaos and destruction, said. And you? He said, looking at Stain, who looked at him with some hatred, and Izuku, noticing Shigaraki's gaze, just waved with his hand. I don't care what you do, just don't mess with the Nomus. He said that Stain didn't care about this, while Izuku just nodded his head. Izuku, confused. And when will the attack be? Asked. Shigaraki, serious, in 3 days, said Stain, calm. Well, at least you'll be back to your training these days, he said, causing the little Nomu to shiver due to bad experiences he had with his father's training. Izuku, a little nervous. I think he was interrupted by Stain. Stain, serious. You won't escape training, and if you try, you'll do worse, he said, making Izuku nod his head in resignation. 3 days later. The little Nomu and his father trained for 3 days, although they occasionally had some quality father and son time in their own way. What was the point of talking about fake heroes and how All Might was the best? Day of the attack. Ciudad Hosu. It was a quiet night in the city, but this tranquility would be interrupted when a portal appeared on a rooftop where the League of Villains accompanied by Nomus came out. Shigaraki, serious, all right, let the chaos begin, he said for a second after the Nomus went to different parts of the city. The city eventually began to descend into chaos. Some buildings had already caught fire. Stain, serious. Okay, time to go do my job. Are you coming, son? I look at Izuku, who just nodded his head with some enthusiasm. And so, father and son went to do their job, where they faced the false heroes who were alone. They continued like this for 1 hour. Stain was ready to kill another hero with the help of Izuku until a boy appeared with a kind of armor with motors on the back of his legs. Iida, who approached the murderer at great speed to knock him down, but the protagonist was able to avoid this using his second quirk and the third, alteration and elasticity, to quickly stretch his arms in the direction of the boy, Iida, and a second later enlarge his hands to immobilize him. Stain, seeing what just happened, approached the immobilized Iida. Stain, serious. So another fake hero. This really bothers me, he said, to take out one of his knives to try to count Iida, but he was able to move his head in time to avoid being cut, but this also caused his helmet to fall off, revealing his face. A child in costume asked. Izuku, calm. He is a UA student. I remember seeing him at the sports festival, and I also know that he retired due to a family matter or something like that, he said, looking at Iida. Hearing all this, Iida became even angrier and began to struggle hard to free himself from Izuku's grip. Izuku, noticing what he wanted to do, tightened his grip too tightly to the point that he could feel that he broke Iida's rib, causing him to groan in pain. Izuku, serious. You have a look of revenge, you know. That's not worthy of a hero, said. Iida, angry. Listen up, criminals. I'm the younger brother of the hero Ingenium, and in honor of his name, I'm going to defeat you. I yell at Izuku and Stain. Stain moved his eyes to see Izuku and made a sign to tell him to let go of Iida, which he understood by letting go of him, causing him to fall to the floor. Iida slowly stood up only to see Stain's katana near his face. Stain, seriously. "So you're Ingenium's brother," he said, and then tried to cut Iida, but he was able to move away enough to only receive a small cut, letting his blood flow out. "I remember leaving him alive to give myself publicity," he said angrily to Iida. Iida desperately ran towards Stain to try to kick him, but the assassin dodged it by taking a great leap where with one foot he landed on Iida's left arm, damaging it and drawing blood due to the spikes that Stain's boots had. He also put his other foot on Iida's head, causing him to fall to the ground face down. "Stain, serious. You really are pathetic. Instead of going to save the wounded hero, you decided to take on a battle in which you will die for your stupid revenge," he said, making Iida look towards the badly injured hero, and he could also see Izuku. Izuku simply stood by the dying hero's side, touching the hero's cheek many times to see if he had a reaction, but he was listening to everything. "Stain, serious, I'd better save myself the explanations. People like you have no point in talking, so I'll finish you off quickly," he said to take one of his knives stained with Iida's blood to activate his quirk. Iida was immobilized. Even with all his strength he couldn't move. Stain already had his katana ready to finish Iida off. But a Melissa had arrived in time, giving Stain a powerful punch in the face, pushing Iida away. This surprised Iida and Izuku since they didn't expect this to happen. The little Nomu went to his father to help him get up, and he accepted the help by standing up. "Izuku, serious, father, let me fight her, whisper." Stain thought about it for a bit and had his doubts until he remembered what happened at the USJ, so he just nodded, giving her permission to fight Melissa. Melissa, angry, "Iida, what are you doing here?" asked. Iida, angry, "Shield, this is none of your business. This is between me and Stain. So get out of here." And he was interrupted by Izuku, who approached Iida and placed his right foot on his head, where he pressed with some force, making him grimace in pain. Izuku, serious. Not only are you a fake hero, you're also ungrateful to your friend who came here to save you. "You disgust me," he said to squeeze Iida's head harder, making him start screaming in pain. Melissa couldn't stand it any longer and launched an attack towards Izuku. Melissa, angry, "Leave him alone," he said, charging his power in his right arm to punch Izuku in the face, but Izuku was able to stop his blow with his right hand. Izuku, confused, "I don't understand. Why would you risk yourself for someone like that who isn't worth saving?" asked. Melissa, angry, "Because the duty of a hero is to stick your nose in where you're not wanted," said. Izuku, Stain, surprised, happy. That's what All Might says, they thought at the same time. The little Nomu remained silent at this. He simply moved his foot away from Iida's head and left Melissa's hand free. When Izuku did that, the girl stepped back with a fighting pose. Izuku, calm. "You know, you have good ideals, but if you really want to prove that you are worthy of being a hero, you will have to fight me," he said, taking out a combat knife. The entire alley remained in a small silence until Melissa launched her attack again at the same time as Izuku. Izuku was ready to attack with the knife, but the girl dodged the cut by passing through Izuku's legs. When he noticed this, he turned around to try to cut her, but he didn't see her anywhere until Stain spoke. "Stain, serious, arriba de ti," said. Izuku listened and could see how Melissa was about to kick him in the face, but he was able to block the attack with difficulty using both arms, but he still ended up being pushed by the force of the attack and Melissa landed on the floor. Izuku, calm, "I admit it. Good attack," said. "Okay, now it's my turn," he said to activate his second quirk, Alteration, to make his hands hard as steel, plus his fifth quirk, Empower. Izuku began to release a dark green aura, something characteristic of his fifth quirk, and then quickly ran towards Melissa to give her a powerful punch in the stomach, drawing some saliva and blood, but she also took advantage of the fact that he attacked her from below to counterattack from above, using her left elbow to hit him hard in the back, making the little Nomu grimace in pain. The girl wasted no time and got behind Izuku to begin subduing him by putting both arms around his neck to render him unconscious due to lack of oxygen, but he already had a plan to free himself. Izuku, in pain, "Hey, I'm sorry," he said with difficulty, confusing Melissa. She was about to ask, but Izuku got ahead of her. Izuku, in pain, "Why am I going to do this?" said. With a quick movement he put his hands on the back of Melissa's neck and gained great momentum to turn Melissa over, knocking her down and finally freeing himself. Melissa's back was hurting, making it difficult for her to get up. Izuku took advantage of this by deactivating her quirks and taking out his combat knife. Izuku approached Melissa and with his knife subtly cut Melissa's cheek to release her small bloodchild. "Izuku, calm. You really are troublesome, but the fight is over," he said as he walks to where Stain is and gives him his knife stained with Melissa's blood so he can use his quirk. Stain licked the blood, paralyzing Melissa. "Stain, serious, you had a hard time fighting that girl," said Izuku, a little calm. "Why yes, I'm sorry," he said, lowering his head. Stain, serious, "But you managed." "Well done," he said, surprising Izuku, and at this he just looked up again and then nodded his head. "Anyway, the girl not only gave you a fight but she said something that a true hero would say, so she is worth living, but her friend is not, and neither is the false hero." After saying that he approached Iida ready to stab him, but Izuku pushed Iida so he could dodge a flame in time. "Todoroki, serious, sorry for the delay," Shield said. Todoroki, upon seeing Izuku, opened his eyes slightly in astonishment as he began to remember what Izuku had told him. "Izuku, seriously, you again? You know, I saw at the sports festival how you used your 100%, so you better use it against me again," said. Stain, serious, "Do you know him?" he asked, looking at Izuku. Izuku, serious, "He's one of the 3 students I defeated, but he only used half of his power," he said, preparing to attack him, but Stain took his shoulder, drawing Izuku's attention. Stain, serious, "You've had your fun fighting the girl, now it's my turn," said. Izuku just nodded and stepped back before Stain took out his katana and knives. Melissa, pained. "Todoroki, don't let him consume your blood, if he does he'll paralyze you like he did with me, also with Iida and with the hero," he said with difficulty. Todoroki just nodded and he gave a powerful flare in the direction of Stain, which he was able to dodge in time, but it was only a distraction to create an ice path with which he attracted the students and the hero. The killer threw his knife at high speed towards Todoroki's face, but he was able to move in time only to receive a small cut on his cheek, drawing blood. Stain wasted no time and went towards Todoroki to attack him again with another knife, but the bicolor created a wall of ice to block this. Although in the same way the assassin was able to dodge the wall to finally be close enough to Todoroki to use his quirk on him. To avoid this, Todoroki threw ice and fire at the same time to make him retreat. While this was happening, Melissa gradually began to have more mobility to the point of standing up a little. "Todoroki, serious, I thought you were paralyzed," he said, looking sideways at Melissa. "Melissa, would be. It seems that depending on the blood type the quirk will last longer," he said, still getting up with difficulty. The rest of the fight continued the same as in the anime, change Izuku for Melissa. Besides, Izuku was watching everything since he didn't receive Stain's orders to counterattack. Izuku saw Stain unconscious on top of an ice created by Todoroki. He was just very angry. "Izuku, angry. They were able to defeat him, but I won't let them do it easily," he said, activating all his quirks at once, except the first quirk and the third. Daiden Shi, Izuku, used his second quirk, making his hands bigger and harder than steel. He used his fourth quirk to make the sharp objects that were in the alley float. Stain's thrown knives, Todoroki's sharp pieces of ice and pieces of broken glass bottles. He activated his fifth quirk to improve his other quirks, and he used the sixth to move faster. Iida was too tired to continue fighting and lost consciousness due to his injuries and overexertion. The little Nomu was the first to attack, using his fourth quirk to quickly throw sharp objects towards the students. Todoroki created a wall of ice to protect himself and the others. Melissa, on the other hand, did parkour on the walls to surprise Izuku with an upward attack where she punched, although she also counterattacked at the same time as the girl, causing both fists to collide with each other. Izuku took Melissa's wrist with his other hand to slam her against the floor with great force, causing her to bounce, remaining suspended in the air for a few seconds only to receive a kick from Izuku that sent her flying towards Todoroki's ice wall. Todoroki attacked with both sides, creating a large gust that Izuku was able to stop with his fourth quirk by firing them. The protagonist went at high speed towards Todoroki to give him a combo of blows to the stomach, and as a final blow he gave him a powerful punch to the face that knocked him down, defeating him. Melissa was beginning to lose consciousness but saw Izuku approaching Stain. Izuku, worried, "Father, wake up. I defeated the students. The other heroes could arrive at any moment. Please wake up, we have to go," he said, shaking Stain a little. Melissa, who was losing consciousness, could hear Izuku say, "Father," to Stain, but due to her condition, she could already think that she was imagining things until she finally fell unconscious. Izuku continued desperately trying to wake Stain up until he began to open his eyes a little. Stain, pained, son. Maybe we won't see each other for a while, but you must promise me that you will bring into this world real heroes like that little girl, he said with difficulty, looking sideways at Melissa. Izuku, sad, I promise father, but I don't want you to leave me again, said. Stain, pained, I'll be back, I promise, he said with difficulty. Izuku just stayed silent for a few seconds and nodded sadly. Stain, pained, that's my son, he said with a small smile. And now go, he said with difficulty. Sad Izuku obeyed his father's order and used his 4th quirk plus 5th quirk, Advanced Telekinesis plus Enhance, to quickly leave the alley to return to the same place where Shigaraki and Kurogiri were. Shigaraki, annoyed, how far have you finally come? Where is the idiot? He was interrupted by Izuku. Izuku, angry, shut up and let's just go, he said using his 1st quirk, creating his own portal and leaving the two villains in a little shock since they didn't expect that reaction. After a few seconds the villains, Shigaraki and Kurogiri, left there to return to the base. When the villains returned to the base they saw the little angry Nomu throwing his combat knives at a dartboard, and the last knife he threw with more force to the point of breaking the board. Shigaraki, annoyed, hey, what the hell is wrong with you? Asked. Kurogiri, worried, what's going on, Daiden? She asked. When Izuku heard Kurogiri he simply calmed down and sighed before putting on a sad expression. Izuku, sad, father was defeated by some UA students. I wanted to help him escape but he refused and told me to leave but promised he would come back, he said still with his sad expression. A few seconds of silence passed in the bar until Kurogiri gently stroked Izuku's head. Kurogiri, sad, I'm really sorry about that Daiden, but if he promised he's going to come back it's because he will, so don't worry so much, said. Seconds later he finished stroking Izuku's head and he just nodded calmer. Izuku, calm, thanks Kurogiri, said. The television turned on showing All for One on the screen. All for One, calm, so. How did the attack go? Asked. Izuku, calm, it went well, everything was going according to plan but. He stopped. Kurogiri, calm, Stain ended up being captured. Izuku finished his sentence, and in response he just nodded. All for One, calm, I see, it's a pity, said. Shigaraki, serious, and now what will we do, master? Asked. All for One, calm, with the attack on Hosu City and thanks to the alliance we made with Stain, I'm sure we'll have more allies, it's just a matter of time, said. Shigaraki, serious, understood, master, he said, and a few seconds later the television turned off. With that said Izuku simply took his combat knives from before and went to his room to rest. Days later, news of Stain's capture spread throughout Japan, as people began to talk more about him and the League, whether they were associated with him, among many other things, which made some people curious. Base of the League. At the bar Kurogiri was cleaning, Shigaraki was bored with his face in the bar and Daiden Izuku was watching TV. Until they turn, attracting the attention of Shigaraki, who had arrived with two new recruits. The first was a man of approximately 23 years old with black hair, many patches, and burned skin. The second person was a short blonde girl with a school uniform and two messy buns. Jiren calmly, meet your new recruits, said. Question mark. Calm, looking at you up close, you're too horrible, said. Question mark. Too happy, are you friends with Stain? Tell me you are, please, can I join the League? He asked enthusiastically. Izuku, confused, and who are they spinning? Asked. Jiren quietly, well, this girl pointing to the media hides her name and face because she is wanted for murders, said. Toga, happy, my name is Toga Himiko. And I'd like to live in a world where it's easy. I want to be like Stain. She said the last thing with a small blush and drawing the attention of the little Nomu. Jiren, calm, the next man is this one. He has not committed any crime that stands out, but he is very attached to the ideals of Stain, said. Dabi, calm, I'm Dabi, said. Shigaraki, serious, I'm not interested in your nickname, I want to know your real name. At least the crazy woman told me her name, said. Dabi, calm, I'll tell you when the time is right. But I'm going to complete stains, will he said, and the last part caught the little Nomu's attention. Shigaraki, angry, I don't like anything they say. They only talk about stain. Stain this, stain that. I can't stand them, he said, extending his hands towards Dabi and Toga. Kurogiri was about to intervene, but Izuku got there first by creating small portals to deflect the attacks of the three villains to prevent them from getting hurt. Izuku, seriously, Shigaraki, remember that we don't have many options, so we have to make the most of them, otherwise we'll get stuck. He whispered into Shigaraki's ear and then undid the portals. With this, Shigaraki stormed out of the bar, leaving Kurogiri and Izuku with Jiren, Toga, and Dabi. Dabi, calm, and what's wrong with him? He asked, pointing where Shigaraki went. Izuku, calm, we're sorry about that, he's had a tough time with the USJ and the attack on Hosu, said. Toga, happy, I thought it would kill me, said. Izuku, calm, anyway, Jiren, you can leave, he said, and he just nodded to leave. While we wait for Shigaraki, could you tell me what his quirks are? It's just a habit of mine, he said, taking out a small notebook. Toga, happy, of course. My quirk is called transformation. If I consume someone's blood, I could take this form. The more blood I drink, the longer it will last, said. Izuku, interested, it is a very useful quirk for infiltration missions. Also, if your quirk were to evolve, you could use the quirk of others when changing form, she said, writing it down in his notebook and then looking at Dabi. What about you? Asked. Dabi, calm, it seems that you are the only one apart from the fog guy who is polite, so I'll tell you. My quirk is blue flames. They can burn almost anything instantly, minerals, people, etc. I can also get the flames out of all parts of my body, he said as he watched Izuku writing everything down. Toga, happy, by the way. Who are you? You look cute, he said, approaching the little Nomu's face. Izuku, a little nervous, it's very close, he thought with a little blush, which was green. My name is Daiden, Shihei said, stepping back a little because of how close Toga was to him. Toga, happy, Daiden Shi, that's a nice name, he said, blushing a little more to Izuku. I just have one last question, he said, taking out his knife, putting it near Izuku's neck. Can I taste your blood? He asked with a crazy smile. Izuku, confused, my blood? Asked. Toga, happy, yes. You look very cute, but you would look even cuter if you bled, he said, still with the knife near Izuku's neck. Izuku, confused, Of course, even to be honest, I have no idea if I have blood or not, said. Toga, confused, why do you say that? Asked. Izuku, calm, the truth is that I am a Namahe, said, surprising the girl and the black-haired boy. Toga, surprised, what? Seriously? But you're so cute, he said, blushing to Izuku. Izuku, a little nervous, thanks for the compliment. But it's true, I'm a Nomusade. Toga, intrigued, I see, and you don't know if you have blood? Asked. Izuku, calm, I've never hurt myself to the point of bleeding, so I'm not very sure. Besides, the Nomus are living corpses with quirks implanted with other people's DNA, so it could be said that I could have a mixture of the blood of the people who possessed the quirks and the blood of the corpse that I have used to give me life, said. Toga, happy, so that means you could have blood of different flavors? She asked, slightly blushing. Izuku, confused, I think so, said. Toga, happy, great. Then I can taste your blood after all, he said, and then gave Izuku a small cut on his neck, making him wince slightly and start to bleed. Daiden Shi's Izuku's blood was black. Toga, very intrigued, approached the little Nomu's neck and began to drink all the blood he could, while the protagonist only had a big greenish blush because of the way the girl drinks his blood. After a few seconds, Toga, satisfied, separated from Izuku. Toga, happy, your blood is unique. I've never tasted such delicious blood before. Thank you, Daiden Shi, she said, blushing. Izuku, sore and nervous, why, you're welcome, he said, taking his neck, still blushing. Minutes later, the bar was very quiet except for Toga invading Izuku's personal space too much, making him blush constantly, until Shigaraki finally returned, who was very calm. Izuku was sitting on a sofa next to Toga. Izuku, a little nervous, welcome back, Shigaraki said with a small blush, moving her toga back a little because of how close it was. Shigaraki calmly, "Hello," he said, taking a seat on one of the chairs near the drinks bar. Izuku calm, "You're very calm. Did something happen?" he asked without realizing that Toga was behind him hugging him. Dabi calm, "Wow, and that's not normal," he asked with a little hint of mockery. Shigaraki tranquillo, ignoring Dabi, "You could say that being away has taken a huge weight off my shoulders," said, "and I already have an idea to make them notice us," he said with a crazy smile. Izuku, a little nervous, "Gee, good for you," he said, blushing as he felt Toga bite his neck to try to take more of his blood. "Why is this happening to me? Why do I feel so nervous around the Toga?" he thought, blushing, looking at Toga. Toga, happy, "Come on, Daidenshi. Give me some more of your delicious blood," she said, blushing, approaching the little Nomu's face. Izuku, nervous, Maybe later, Toga. I still haven't recovered from the fact that you'll draw my blood first, so I should rest a little," said Toga, annoyed. Well," he said, puffing out his cheeks and crossing his arms. Toga looked like she was going to stay quiet until she had an idea. Toga, happy, "Now I know how you can rest faster," he said, looking at Izuku. Izuku, confused, "Really?" he asked, looking at her. Toga, happy, "Yes. You just need something soft to rest on, so," said. Toga carefully grabbed Izuku's head and then placed his head on her legs so Izuku could use them as a pillow, blushing him, and Toga began to stroke the little Nomu's head. Toga, happy, "Are you comfortable now?" I asked, blushing. Izuku, nervously, "Why, yes. Gee, thanks," he said, blushing 100%. Shigaraki, confused, "And what's wrong with them?" he asked Dabi and Kurogiri, looking at the scene of Toga and Izuku. Dabi, uninterested, "I don't know and I don't care," said. Kurogiri, quiet, "You could say that Miss Toga and Daidenshi are getting along well in their own way," he said, cleaning a glass. Toga, happy, "Very well, Daidenshi. Now you can sleep as long as you want," he said, continuing to caress Izuku's head. Izuku, embarrassed, I don't know why he's like that with me," he thought, beginning to feel tired and relaxed by the caresses he received from Toga. "Maybe he just wants my blood," he thought, then gave a small yawn. "Or he's just curious about me." Little by little he was closing his eyes, and the last thing he saw was Toga, who was looking at him with a calm smile, and due to the lighting it seemed that the girl's eyes were shining while she continued to caress him. Or is it something else? That was the last thought he had before falling deeply asleep. Toga, happy, "He looks very cute when he sleeps," she said, blushing, looking at the others. Shigaraki, calm, "Whatever," said. Dabi, intrigued, "What's your idea to make them notice us?" he asked, looking at Shigaraki. Shigaraki, serious, "Let's attack the Ua brats who will be on vacation at a camp," said. Dabi, confused, "And what would be the objective of attacking that camp?" asked. Shigaraki, serious, "The goal is," said. Shigaraki, serious, "This girl," he said, showing a picture of Melissa. Dabi, confused, "Why do you want the girl? What, do you have strange tastes?" asked. Shigaraki, annoyed, "The teacher said she was the target, I didn't choose her," said. Dabi, disinterested, "Whatever," said. Toga, happy, "That girl is cute. Not as cute as Daidenshi, but we could be really good friends," she said, smiling, blushing as she continued stroking the head of the little sleeping Nomu. Shigaraki, seriously, "The master wants her alive, so be careful," said. Dabi, calm, "I understand, capture her alive, but there are too few of us to attack that camp," said. Shigaraki, serious, "I've already thought about that. We'll have more guys to help us with that. I just have to contact Jiren again so he can bring me more recruits," said. Dabi, calm, "And what are we doing for the moment?" asked. Toga, happy, "Yes. What do we do?" asked. Shigaraki, serious, "I don't care what you do, you can leave and come back whenever you want," said. Toga, happy, "Great. In that case, I'll take Daidenshi with me," said. Kurogiri, quietly, "Miss Toga, Daidenshi has a bedroom right here, you could stay with him there if you wish. His bedroom is at the end of the hallway and is the first door on the right," said. Toga, happy, "Thanks, Kurogiri," he said, and then carefully carried Izuku to take him to his bedroom. Dabi, confused, "Are we going to think that what we just saw is normal?" asked. Shigaraki, a little annoyed, I already told you that I'm not interested in anything you do, said. Daidenshi dormitory. Toga finally arrived at the little Nomu's bedroom and gently laid him down on the bed before the girl lay down next to the Nomu boy. It seemed like it was going to stay like that, but no, the girl took the little boy's head again, not to put him between her breasts, according to her, so Daidenshi can sleep better. Toga, happy, good night, Daidenshish whispered and kissed Izuku on the head as she slowly fell asleep. The next day, the little Nomu was slowly waking up but still couldn't see anything, and this confused him. Izuku, confused, why can't I see anything? And why does it feel soft blocking my vision? He thought to try to push the soft thing away with his hands, but when he tried he only heard a small moan. Did the soft thing just make a noise? He thought to try again to move the soft thing away from his face, but he heard the same sound again. The confused protagonist decided to lift his head only to discover that Toga was asleep next to him and to make his luck worse or better. The soft thing he had been touching was the girl's breast. Upon discovering this last thing, her greenish blush invaded her entire face. Izuku, very nervous, how did I end up like this? He thought, blushing and starting to tremble a little. Oh okay, see, calm down, why you just have to move as slowly, and he was interrupted by a voice. Toga, happy, good morning, Daidenshish said in a sweet tone, looking at the Nomu boy, and he looked at her very nervous, as well as blushing. Did you sleep well? He asked, giving a small yawn, implying that he had just woken up. Izuku, nervous too, why yes. I slept well, he said to get up from the bed slowly. Seriously, what's happening to me? He thought, well, what happened when I fell asleep? He asked, slightly blushing. Toga, happy, when you fell asleep, Shigaraki started talking about a new plan to make the news talk about the league, said. Izuku, confused, and what's the plan? Asked. Toga, happy, we will attack a camp where the UA students will go with new friends that Shigaraki will find, and we will kidnap a blonde girl with glasses, said. Izuku, calm, understood. Okay, now I'll go see Kurogiri, said. Tojiku, happy, okay. I'll stay here for a few more minutes. The bed is very soft, said. Izuku, calm, it's okay, said. The little Nomu went to the bar where Shigaraki, Kurogiri and Dabi were. Izuku, calm, good morning, said. Kurogiri, Shigaraki, Dabi, calm, serious, quiet, good morning, Daidenshi, hello. What's up? They spoke at the same time. Dabi, mocking, did you enjoy your roommate? She said, making the Nomu boy start to remember how he fell asleep on Toga's legs and how he had also accidentally touched her. All of this made his blush come back. Izuku, a little nervous, I don't know what you're talking about, said. Dabi, calm, anyway, do you want me to tell you Shigaraki's plan? Or has Toga already done it? Asked. Izuku, calm, he already told me, said. Shigaraki, serious, that's good, because I didn't want to repeat the plan, said. Izuku, calm, and when will the new recruits arrive? Said. Shigaraki, serious, I don't know and I don't care, but they are sure to come today, said. Izuku, calm, it's okay, and he couldn't finish speaking because the door opened, revealing the other recruits. They already know who they are, and one more thing, Toga is already with them at the bar. Jin, happy, serious, I'm Twice. Nice to meet you. I lied, I'm Batman, he said, and the second thing with a serious tone of voice. Izuku, quiet, nice to meet you, he said, waving his hand. Shuichi, seriously, I'm a spinner and I'm Stain's successor, and he was interrupted because Izuku activated his second quirk, making his hands bigger, and his third quirk stretched his arms towards the Gecko Man to catch him with his hands, alteration and elasticity, starting to squeeze hard, hurting him, surprising everyone by what the little one did but awakening the interest of a blonde with steroids. UGH. What the hell is wrong with you? He asked in pain. Izuku, serious and angry, shut up, you're a fraud. You're not Stain's successor, and I won't let you ruin his image. I scream, squeezing the Gecko Man tighter. Kurogiri, surprised, Daidenshi. Stop it, leave it, I screamed, but he didn't listen. Shuichi, hurt and angry, and what do you know about him? Why, you're just a damn brat. And I'm sure if he saw you now he'd tell you you're shit, said. This awakened the true fury of the little Nomu, so he released the Gecko Man and he was about to counterattack if it weren't for the Nomu boy using his second, fifth and sixth quirks at the same time, second to make his hands hard as steel, fifth to enhance his blows and sixth to become faster when attacking, to give him a flurry of blows to the stomach causing him to spit saliva and blood until he fell to the floor in pain. It seemed that Izuku had already finished hitting the reptile villain, but he took out one of his combat knives to stab the reptile in the head. Toga, assistant, Daidenshi basta, he said, hugging him tightly to prevent him from killing the villain. Please react. Is this what Stain would like? He shouted, making him come to his senses. At this he only stopped and then got on his knees, covering his face with both hands. Izuku, sad, I'm so sorry, I just miss my dad, said. Toga just continued hugging him but with less strength. Toga, calm, I know, he said, stroking her head. Shuichi, pained, father. Is Stain your father? He asked with difficulty and starting to cough a little blood. Izuku, regretful, yes. And I'm very sorry for the harm I caused you, he said, bowing to the ground as a sign of great submission. Fun fact. The name of what Daidenshi is doing is unnecessary. It is called dageza, which in Spanish means, to lay down on the ground, and is also a, so to speak, great show of forgiveness. Shuichi, pained, I apologize too. I didn't know he was talking to Stain's true disciple. He said with difficulty, but I'll stay in the league. I really want to know what you learned from Stain, he said, forcing a smile because of the pain. Izuku, regretful, I understand, Kurogiri. Heal his wounds, please, he said, slowly getting up from the floor and helped lift the reptilian person. At this, Kurogiri took the spinner to heal him, leaving everyone in an awkward silence. Shigaraki, serious, I hope this tantrum of yours doesn't delay this plan. The attack will be in 3 days, so I don't want you to do anything stupid. Especially you, he said, and the last thing pointed to the little Nomu. Days later. These days the League has been preparing for Melissa's kidnapping, while the little Nomu was mostly in charge of treating the Gecko Man's wounds as quickly as possible and interacting with Toga from time to strengthen their friendship, according to Toga. Toga, happy, and that way you make sure your victim bleeds to death, he said, finishing telling the little Nomu one of his tips, as he approached the boy. Izuku, a little nervous, oh of course, he said with a slight blush because of how close the girl was. Shigaraki, a little annoyed, are you done flirting? She asked, looking at the Nomu boy, making his blush rise. Toga, happy, we're ready to attack that camp now, he said, ignoring Shigaraki and raising his arms. Shigaraki, serious, Kurogiri, open the portal to that camp, he ordered, and the aforementioned obeyed. The portal appeared where the League crossed it, reaching a hill that allowed them to see the entire camp. The villains are the same as in the anime and manga, just include Izuku. Toga, a little annoyed, this outfit isn't pretty at all and the mask is weird, said. Izuku, calm, don't worry about it, Toga, look on the bright side of this, maybe you can make friends like you said, he said, encouraging the girl. Toga, happy, yes. That's true. Thank you, Daidenshi, she said back with her usual spirit. Dabi, serious, are you done talking? He asked, looking at Toga and the Nomu boy, who both nodded. Okay, let the chaos begin. You know what to do, he said, and everyone went to their places. They all went to the same places as in the anime. Izuku accompanied Muscular. All the villains were already in their positions. Mustard began to fill the forest with poisonous gas. Dabi began to burn the forest. Toga made friends. Twice was in charge of creating Dabi clones to spread the fire in the spinner forest already recovered, and Magna took care of the heroes, and finally Muscular accompanied by Izuku went to a hill, seeing all the chaos. Go to crazy, you know, kid. I only joined the League to have fun with these brats. I want them to fight with all their might so I can kill them in horrible ways, said. Izuku, confused, you just kill for fun and for no reason? Asked. They would have continued talking if they both hadn't seen a boy with a red cap, Kota. Izuku, confused, a child. What's a child doing here? No one told us about this, he said, looking at the child, who began to get scared. Go to, calm down. Don't worry, I know what to do, he said, taking a few steps forward. Hey kid, you have a cool hat. Would you like to trade it for this boring mask? He said, scaring the boy more, making him start running away. Hey. Where are you going? he said, activating his quirk to easily reach Kota, hitting the floor near the boy, making Kota's escape impossible and creating rubble. Muscular was about to crush Kota with his fist but received a large cut on his right cheek, starting to bleed, but the blonde didn't care about the pain and small Nomu stood in front of Kota to protect him. "Go crazy, what's up kid? Do you want to become a hero?" asked Izuku, a little annoyed. "There's no point in shedding unnecessary muscle blood, especially on a child who has nothing to do with our mission here," said. "Go crazy, I don't care, but since you're getting in the way, now you'll be the one to take the brat's place," he shouted, activating his quirk, greatly increasing his muscle fibers. Muscular launched an attack towards the small Nomu, who in response activated his alteration quirk, making his fists bigger and harder than titanium plus his empower quirk plus improved reflexes. Daidenshi Izuku took Kota and carried him to make a great jump, dodging the muscular attack in time. When the Nomu boy landed, he put Kota behind him. "Izuku, serious kid, please run away, I'll distract him," he said in a combat pose. Kota, scared, why are you helping me? Why, you're a villain," he said, crying out of fear. "Izuku, serious, watching the death of a child who doesn't deserve it is not in my plans, please run away," he said to return to the attack as well as Muscular. Muscular used both hands to crush Daidenshi, but the small Nomu passed under Muscular's legs, dodging the attack, and jumped to deliver a spinning kick to Muscular's face as he moved his head to look at Daidenshi. "Go crazy, come on. Fight for real. Fight like you did with the Gecko Man. If you don't, I'll kill the kid," said. This angered the Nomu boy, so he moved away to use his advanced telekinesis quirk to levitate the debris that was around them to use them as projectiles, throwing them at great speed towards Muscular thanks to his empowerment quirk. The muscular blonde covered himself with his arms in the shape of an X where some debris was buried in his arms, but he was not affected. While Muscular blocked Daidenshi, he reactivated his alteration quirk again to make his body as strong as All Might but retaining the hardness of titanium. "Go crazy, pathetic," he said, still covering himself with his arms. "Let's go," he said as he pulled his arms away from his face as he realized the debris attack had stopped. "Give me your best goal." He was interrupted when he received a full power punch from Daidenshi, which sent him crashing against the mountain, drawing a little blood from his mouth. "Good hit. But now I'm going to fight seriously," he said, changing his left eye for another. The fight continued with exchanges of blows so strong they made the mountain tremble. Daidenshi Ardo decided to increase the power of his fifth quirk, Enhance. Then used his elasticity quirk to take Muscular with his hands and began to spin around at high speed until the small Nomu alone to the blonde, sending him flying through the air. Daidenshi with his advanced telekinesis used it to fly towards the villain, then returned to his normal form, but his right arm became as big as a truck and gave the final blow to the blonde, causing him to quickly fall to the ground, creating a large crater, leaving him out of combat. This last attack also caused Kota to fall off the mountain, but the little Nomu saved him using his advanced telekinesis and brought him to safety, leaving him back on the mountain. Kota, scared, why take such a risk? He thought, looking at the Nomu boy who only let out small sighs. "Izuku, calm, you have to return to the heroes as soon as possible, kid," he said to turn around and leave, but he heard Kota's voice. Kota, a little nervous, hey, he said, drawing the attention of the Nomu boy. "Thank you for saving me," he said, looking at the floor. "Izuku, calm, you're welcome," and he was interrupted when he received a signal on his communicator. "Dabi, serious, hey, come back here, we already have the objective," said. Izuku, calm, understood, he said to cut off communication. Izuku looked at Kota again and waved goodbye before activating his alteration quirk again, creating 4 spider legs from his back and jumping through the trees that weren't burned. A few seconds later the protagonist arrived at the previous location. "Izuku, calm, I'm back," he said, deactivating his second quirk. Dabi, confused, "First, why didn't you use your teleportation quirk to get here? And second, what happened to Muscular?" asked. Izuku, calm, "First, it's fun from time to time to move without using teleportation. Second, Muscular was captured," said. Dabi, serious, anyway, we already have the girl, let's go, open the portal, said. The Nomu boy obeyed and created a portal where before entering Mr. Compress deactivated his quirk in Melissa, causing her to return to her original form. The girl was about to act if it weren't for Dabi's hand on her neck making it impossible for her to be anything. Everyone started to cross the portal except Toga and Daidenshi. Izuku calm, and were you able to make friends? Asked. Toga happy, yes. I made many friends and I have the blood of one of them, he said, showing a small jar with blood. Izuku quiet, well done. Time to go, he said, walking next to Toga. Both crossed the portal to close seconds later. Base of the league. When they arrived, the first thing they did was put Melissa in a chair and tie her up so she couldn't escape. Izuku calm, ready Shigaraki. We brought the target, he said, pointing at Melissa. Shigaraki, serio, bien. He said, looking at Melissa with a little annoyance. I don't know why my teacher loves you, but I can't stand you because you remind me of All Might. Said. 3 days later. On the news, Melissa's kidnapping and the attack on the camp were all they talked about these days. But the most affected was All Might, since his niece and successor could be in danger, since she is very close to the symbol of evil. Not much has happened with the league these days, just Daidenshi and Toga chatting. Things have started to get better. Also the little Nomu talked to Melissa and gave her food from time to time. Melissa asked him why he was kind to her, to which he replied. Flashback. Melissa confused, hey. He said, drawing Daidenshi's attention. Why are you so kind to me? He asked, looking at the little Nomu. Izuku calm, my father saw in you the spirit worthy of a true hero just like me, and your spirit reminded us of All Might. That's why I'm kind to you, because I think you deserve it. He said, surprising Melissa by Daidenshi's words. Melissa, a little calm, I see. Thank you for thinking I'm worthy of being a hero, said. End of flashback. At the moment, the heroes were preparing to attack the league base and rescue Melissa. Base of the league. Shigaraki, seriously, you know, I've been thinking. Would you like to join the League of Villains? He said, surprising everyone present. Dabi, annoyed, are you crazy? Ladijo in your entrance. Toga, happy, great. If Melissa joins us, Daidenshi will have more company to talk to. He said, hugging the little Nomu, blushing him a little. Izuku, a little nervous, I think so. He said with a slight blush. Shuichi, serious, I'm afraid the girl won't join us. Stain believes she is worthy of being a hero, so it's impossible for her to join us, said. Shigaraki, serious, shut up and leave it to me. He said, approaching Melissa. Well, listen, this society is rotting and eventually everything will fall apart. You should also know that you can't save everyone, and I'm sure even All Might knows that. He said, making me just look down. Melissa would be, maybe you're right that I can't save everyone, Shigaraki. But even so, I'll save everyone within my reach no matter what happens to me. I want to be a true hero. So I would never join you, said. Shuichi, seriously, I told you. He whispered, looking at Shigaraki, who was upset. The public apology from the teachers and the principal also happened. Just replace Bakugo with Melissa. Everyone watching the broadcast understood that Melissa would never join the league, saddening Toga, angering Shigaraki, relieving Daidenshi, because if she joined them she would lose the title of true heroine, according to the Nomu boy, and the others didn't care. Shigaraki was going to speak until there was a knock on the door. Happy. Hello. I brought the pizza you ordered, he said, confused to everyone. Izuku, confused. He ordered pizza. He fell silent as he realized something. Oh no, Kurogiri, pull us out of a queue. He was interrupted when he saw that the door was destroyed by All Might, surprising everyone. The league, Melissa, surprised. All Might, they shouted at the same time. The heroes who accompany All Might are the same as in the manga. The heroes were in charge of knocking out Kurogiri and Dabi and were captured by the wooden hero. They also started saying the real names of the villains, except for Izuku's. Sorihiko, seriously, and you, he said, looking at Izuku, who was trying to free himself but stopped trying when they spoke to him. Plus he got a little tired from trying to free himself. Izuku, a little tired. Hello, I wave my hand. Sorihiko, serious. You are Izuku Midoriya, right? He asked, looking at the little Nomu, who just remained silent. Izuku, confused. And who is that? Asked Sorihiko, annoyed. Brat, do you think I'm stupid? We already know who you are, he said, making the Nomu boy a little nervous. Izuku, a little nervous. I can assure you that I never lie, said. Well, except when Muscular was captured, he thought. They would have continued arguing if it weren't for the fact that a strange liquid began to come out of the villains and Melissa's mouths, which teleported them away, causing them to disappear. All Might tried to reach Melissa but failed. Nomu's winery. The place was destroyed. The heroes assigned in that area were defeated by the symbol of evil AFO. After a few seconds of silence, the League and Melissa began to appear. Everyone seemed disgusted by how they were transported, except Dabi and Kurogiri, but the little Nomu only remained thoughtful when he heard what Gran Torino told him. Izuku, confundido. Is Izuku still alive? He thought until he remembered where he had heard that name before. Flashbacks. First memory. Bakugo, pained. B. Before I wanted to become a hero that surpassed All Might along with my best friend. B. But he ended up being AQ quirkless and then some idiots caused his H homicide. When that happened my motivation to be a hero changed. Now I wanted to be one to protect the quirkless like I did with my friend, as well as being a hero that makes him proud of me. He said with difficulty, letting tears of frustration fall as he remembered his friend's death. Second memory. Bakugo, serious and calm. I've never given a speech, but I just want to tell you to give your best effort. But in case I win, I want to dedicate my victory to my best friend Izuku Midoriya, he said, moving a large part of the people present. End of flashbacks. Izuku, in shock, if I'm really Izuku Midoriya then. I died in a homicide and I was Bakugo's friend, he thought, beginning to breathe with difficulty. The little Nomu began to hear nothing but a buzzing sound, and as in some parts he saw dark, he again saw normally. He no longer understood what was happening around him because of his situation, and the times he saw normally he could only see things like, All Might arriving to fight AFO, how a giant ice ramp appeared where the UA students went to save Melissa, and thanks to that the girl was able to escape, and among these students was Bakugo. The little Nomu, upon seeing the boy, just extended his hand with effort even though nothing was happening. He just saw how he escaped with Melissa. Then he saw All Might's true form, and the last thing he could see was that he was dragged into a portal created by Kurogiri, and then everything went dark. The next day, the little Nomu was slowly waking up and then realized that his head was on the Toga's legs. Toga, happy, good morning Sleeping Beauty, he said with a smile with a small blush. The little Nomu's memories of what happened the day before began to flood back to his head, causing him to start getting headaches. Izuku, pained, ah, he said, holding his head tightly with both hands. Toga, worried, what's going on? He asked looking at the boy. Izuku, in pain. See, calm down, I'm fine, he said, slowly getting up. Hours later, the little Nomu was told that AFO was defeated by All Might and that he was also officially retiring from being a hero. He didn't give much importance to these things, since the revelation he had the night before didn't leave him alone. So, the boy began to search for information about the green-haired boy, and when he searched for his name, he found the news about the murder that Bakugo told him. He also found information that Izuku's corpse disappeared before he was buried. In addition to that, he discovered that Izuku was quirkless, and thanks to the doctor he knew that quirkless people could withstand many quirks. With all this he was able to confirm his suspicions, that he is Izuku Midoriya, or what remains of the green-haired man. Toga could notice that Dayton Shi was very restless and scared, so he approached the little Nomu to find out what was wrong with him. Toga, worried, is something wrong Dayton Shi? Asked. Izuku, nervous. I'm just thinking about things, said. Toga, interested, what kind of things? He asked, getting too close to the Nomu boy. Izuku, nervous. See, can we talk in private? She asked with a small blush. This confused the girl a little, but she agreed, and they both went to a room to talk alone. Toga, confused, and what did you want to talk about? Asked. Izuku, nervous. It's just. He stared at the floor for a few seconds until he breathed slowly to calm down and looked up again. I found out that this person's corpse used to be a friend of one of the UA students, said. After that, he began to explain further what he discovered about Izuku Midoriya's life. Toga, surprised. And what plans do you have now that you know the truth? Asked. Izuku, nervous. I want to know more about Izuku Midoriya as well as know about his family. Said. Toga, a little sad. So you're going to leave me alone in the league? Said. Izuku, a little nervous. And no. I'm just curious to know. Besides, I was also going to ask you if you wanted to come with me to find out more about Midoriya's past. Said. The girl just remained silent for a few moments before looking at the little Nomu. Toga, a little embarrassed, will you keep giving me your blood? He asked, looking at the boy who just nodded. All right, said, and where are we going to find the family of the boy Midoriya? Asked. Izuku, calm, I already thought about that. Before telling you all this, I also checked about Midoriya's family. I didn't find any information about his father, but about his mother I discovered that she lives with her friend named Mitsuki Bakugo, and when I got information about her I discovered where she lives, said. Toga, happy, well, in that case, let's find out more about that Midoriya boy, she said, climbing onto the Nomu boy's back so he could carry her like a horse. Izuku, nervous, Toga, is it necessary for me to carry you? He said with a slight blush as he felt the girl's breasts. Toga, a little annoyed, if we go to look for Midoriya's mom, carry me. He said, puffing out his cheeks. At this the little Nomu sighed, defeated, and just nodded his head, cheering the girl up. With all this problem solved, the boy opened a portal where they both crossed it, and when they did, they arrived at a house. Just imagine how late it is. Toga, calmly, it's a nice house. Said. Izuku, calm, yes, it is. Said. The Nomu boy walked towards the doorbell of the house. He was about to ring the bell until his nerves took over him, making his hand start to shake, and little by little he moved his hand away from the bell, but his hand was taken by the blonde, who gave him a smile to reassure him, which worked. The little Nomu along with the blonde rang the doorbell at the same time. The doorbell was heard throughout the house, but everything was silent. It seemed like no one was in the house. They were about to leave the place until someone slowly opened the door. Inko, a little sad, Mitsuki. You came back from shopping so soon? She asked, still opening the door until she opened it completely, realizing that it was not her friend. Who are you? Asked. Izuku, nervously, so he was interrupted. Bakugo, quiet, Aunt Inko, who knocked on the door. He couldn't finish when he saw Daidenshi and Toga and then put on a serious face. Aunt Inko. Stay away from them, said. Inko, noticing the change in the younger Bakugo, became very nervous about seeing the strangers. Bakugo, serious, aunt, call the police, I'll take care of them while I can, said. The green-haired woman was very afraid of losing her nephew, like she did her son, becoming paralyzed with fear just thinking about it. Meanwhile with the blonde, he was about to attack the villains until the little Nomu spoke. Izuku, nervous, we don't want to fight. I just want to talk to her, he said, pointing at Inko. Inko, nervous, what do you need from me? Said. Izuku, nervous, well, the truth is that. We have news about your Senhei, said, leaving Inko and Bakugo in shock. Inko, surprised, seriously. Why do you know what happened to him? Where is his body? He said, taking the little Nomu by the shoulders and starting to shake him. Izuku, surprised, please calm down. If you keep shaking me I might faint, said. A few seconds passed and the older Midoriya calmed down with the help of the blonde. Bakugo, serious, where is my friend's body? He said, looking at the blonde and the little Nomu. Izuku, nervous, his body was interrupted by Toga. Toga, a little nervous, he's here. He said, touching the little Nomu's chest a little. What's left of him? Said. Inko, in shock, what? He asked, looking at the little Nomu. Bakugo, angry, are you joking? This isn't funny, idiots. He said, looking at the villains. Izuku, nervous, no joke. It's true, said. Remember when I asked you why you wanted to be a hero? Asked. Bakugo, annoyed, so what? Said. Izuku, nervous, you told me that your motivation is to defend the quirkless because your friend turned out to be one, right? He said, making the blonde just nod his head. But some kids caused his murder. He said, making the blonde start to clench his fists tightly. And at the sports festival, mention that your friend is Izuku Midoriya. Said also, when the heroes broke into the League of Villains base, the hero Gran Torino said he was Izuku Midoriya. He said, surprising the blonde and the older Midoriya. I didn't believe it either, but after so much research I realized that. He saw Inko. I'm your son. Said. Inko, sad, if it's true, why didn't you visit me? Asked. Izuku, sad T. The truth is that I had no memory of my life as Izuku Midoriya or W that you were my mother, I'm really sorry said. Bakugo, serious, and how is that possible? Asked. Izuku, nervous, I don't know, I guess they had to erase my memories to prevent this kind of thing from happening. Said. Inko, worried, B but you're still Izuku, right? Asked. Izuku, nervous, see you could say Yeshe said and then was hugged by Inko very tightly while she cried her eyes out. Inko, emocionada, wa Izuku. He said still hugging his son Nomu. Izuku, excited, Mrs. in mom why you cry too me too, well, I'm going to. Wa he also said, starting to cry a lot while all this was seen by the blondes. Bakugo, calm, wow. Like 2 drops of water, it's definitely Izuku said. Toga, calm, if they are mother and son said. Hours later. The little Nomu and the girl were in the living room of the Bakugo house where they began to tell what they have lived until now, mostly Izuku, from what the little Nomu remembers, how Stain became his father figure, his great interest in quirks, as well as the interest in bringing true heroes to society like the younger Bakugo or Melissa, and also how he met Toga getting along, in his own way, until now. Inko, a little calm, it shows that Kurogiri and Mr. Stain care about you as much as I do. Said. Izuku, calm down, yes. He said with a small smile I'm also sorry for everything you went through because of Meihei said that in the span of hours Inko had also told him what happened to her and what she suffered because of Izuku's death. Inko, a little nervous, see calm down. Thanks to the Bakugo I can improve my mood, even though sometimes I still think about you. Sahida, and what are you going to do now? What are you going to do with the league? Asked. Izuku, worried, I don't know. I promised Stain that I would bring true heroes to society but said I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do next. Said. Inko, confused, and what do you plan to do then after fulfilling your promise? He asked but was hugged by Izuku. Izuku, calm, I'll visit you as often as I can and once I fulfill the promise I made to Stain I'll spend time with you. He said smiling. Inko, calmer, it's okay son, and Himiko he said, getting the girl's attention. Toga, a little nervous, why yes, Miss Midoriya? Asked. Inko, calm, don't worry about the formalities, you can call me Inko, and with everything Izuku told me about you, you're a good girl. So please, take care of my son. Please, while you keep your promise to Mr. Stain, he said taking the blonde girl's hands. Toga, happy, sure Miss Inko. He said smiling I will take very good care of your son. He said hugging Izuku blushing slightly. Izuku, a little nervous, Toga I don't have a problem with you hugging me B but it's a little embarrassing that you hug me in front of my mom. Said. Toga, happy, you have nothing to be ashamed of, Izushihei said still hugging him. Izuku, a little surprised, Izushi. He asked a little more blushing. Toga, happy, I came up with that nickname by combining your real name with the name I used when I met you. Do you like it? Said. Izuku, shy, sure. He said, ducking his head so they wouldn't see the big blush he had. Inko, Felice, Izuku he said, drawing the attention of the little Nomu. Izuku, calmer, yes, mom. Asked. Inko, happy, I have no problem with you and Himiko being together. Just don't rush things, he said blushing to the blonde and blushing again to the Nomu boy. Izuku, embarrassed, mom. He said, getting a little laugh from his mom. They heard the sound of the door slowly opening, scaring Izuku and Toga. Izuku, nervous, we have to go now Momhei whispered so the older Bakugo wouldn't hear them. Toga, a little nervous, it was a pleasure meeting you, Miss Inko, but as Izushi said, we must go. Whisper. Inko, a little discouraged, okay. Come back soon, okay. Said. Izuku, discouraged, I promise. He said quickly creating a portal in the room and there the little Nomu accompanied by the girl entered the portal so that it disappeared seconds later. In the league's new hideout. Daiden Shi's room. A portal was opening where the little Nomu and the blonde quickly came out but both because of how quickly they left the portal they tripped and fell to the floor where they ended up lying next to each other. The Nomu boy and the blonde remained silent for a few seconds until the boy reacted and blushed like a tomato, as did the blonde, remembering what the older Midoriya told them, so they quickly moved away. The Nomu boy sat on his bed with a slight blush, looking away a little. Izuku, a little nervous. Oh okay, we know we're not going to say anything about what we talked about with my mom, right? He said, diminishing his blush. Toga, a little nervous. And no, we won't say anything. Said Izuku, a little worried. Although, I don't know if we can talk to my mom soon. Said Toga, confused. Why not? You just use your portal and it was interrupted. Izuku, worried. And it's not that. I mean, if the heroes or the league find out what I talked to my mom about, they'll go after her and the Bakugo said maybe the heroes are looking for information, but the league could hurt them and hurt me for keeping this from them. Said Toga, a little sad. I see. Are you still going to keep your promises? Asked Izuku, determined. That's right, he said, and Toga hugged him, surprising him. Toga, happy. In that case, I'll always be by your side, she said with a cute blushing smile to the little Nomu until she realized what she said and got nervous. It's because I promised your mother that I would take care of you and you're also my friend, Izuku said. Izuku, nervous. Why yes, that's true. Said. Some time later. The league was spending their time committing petty crimes, mainly stealing money, while they looked for a way to stay alive. Shigaraki, seriously, okay, listen up. We're going to meet up with some Yakuza to see if we can form an alliance at a winery tonight, so don't do anything stupid. He said, looking at all the members of the league. Toga, a little bored. Yakuza don't sound very fun. At least I'll get to draw blood from someone. He asked, playing with a knife. Izuku, a little nervous. I don't think so. He said, discouraging the girl a little. At night, abandoned warehouse. The members of the league could be seen leading the Yakuza leader and some of his subordinates. Dabi, bored. When will the Yakuza type arrive? Asked. Izuku, calm. Twice as waiting outside, so he was interrupted when the cellar door opened. Jin, happy. The Yakuza lord has arrived. He said, entering the warehouse accompanied by a guy with a beak-shaped mask. Izuku, confused. Is he the Yakuza? Asked. Shigaraki, seriously, yes. The teacher showed me a picture of him a while ago. He's the leader of the 8 Bullets of Death. Said. Toga, bored. Is she supposed to be different from us? Asked. Izuku, calm. Well, before the era of quirks, the Yakuzas ruled the underworld, until quirks emerged and little by little they were on the verge of extinction. He said in summary. Chisaki, serious, basically yes. Said. Kenji, confused. So, you're one of the guys taking advantage of All Might's retirement? Asked. Chisaki, serious, not really. I'm actually taking advantage of AFO's absence. He said, getting everyone's attention and angering the villain with a hand on his face. My generation considered it an urban legend, however the elders believed or feared him. Then his appearance happened, then his defeat against All Might, and then his capture. In simpler terms, there are no more left, there is no one else to reign over light or darkness. The truth is, who will be the next to reign? Said. Shigaraki, serious, I'll be the next to rule. For now we're just trying to find all the resources possible and have enough power to destroy the hero society. Said. Chisaki, serious, and you have a plan for that? Asked. Shigaraki, seriously, plan? Aren't you here to ally us? Asked. Chisaki, seriously, a goal without a plan equals failure. Even though I do have a plan, I'm not here to join you. He said, and saw the little Nomu raise his hand and asked. Izuku, confused. Out of curiosity, what exactly is your plan? Asked. Chisaki, seriously, I want your help to bring back the Yakuza and become the new King of Darkness. Said. With this comment the entire warehouse fell silent for a few seconds until the disintegrating villain spoke. Shigaraki, angry, go away. Said. After saying this, Magna was the first to attack. Nomu boy saw how Chisaki took off her gloves, and in less than a second he realized Chisaki's intentions, so he activated his alteration plus elasticity. He quickly stretched his arms towards Magna to stop her, but it was too late and everyone saw how his partner literally exploded, leaving nothing but the lower part of her body. Toga, populate Magna. Shout. Chisaki, serious, you started it. Said. Everything that happened next happened the same as in the manga. Chisaki, accompanied by his henchmen, left the warehouse, leaving the league members alone in deep silence. The Nomu boy was shocked to see the death of one of his companions. Then he approached the corpse where he hugged it for a few seconds and then picked it up and carried it outside. Toga knew the condition of his friend, so he just followed him silently, and when he looked at him, he saw that with his alteration quirk, turning his hands into large shovels, he was digging a little until he reached the depth of 2 meters where he left Magna's corpse and buried the corpse. The little Nomu began to cry silently, which Toga noticed, so he limited himself to hugging him and stroking his head to calm him down. A few days later. Nothing interesting happened these days except that Shigaraki was gone for a while and then came back as if nothing had happened. Plus the Nomu boy was mostly locked in his room and only spoke to Toga a little. Now, all the members of the league were gathered and Shigaraki had something to say to him. Jin, angry. Let's ally ourselves with those Yakuzas, said. Shigaraki, annoyed. How many times do I have to repeat it? Asked. Their plan is very tempting. Daiden Shi, Toga and Twice will work for the Yakuzas, said. Izuku, a little annoyed. I reject the idea, said. Jin, annoyed. Is this some kind of joke? Why am I not laughing? Said. Did you forget that guy killed Magna, and Mr. Compress lost an arm? Said. Toga of Algo, said. Toga, calm. I joined the league to feel good, and to make friends and live life however I want. But I have a question. He said, putting his knife near Shigaraki's neck. Why do we have to do something so horrible and unpleasant? Asked. At this Toga felt a fearful presence coming from Shigaraki only to see him remove his hand from his face. Shigaraki, calmly, it's for my own good and for everyone's, he said, drawing the attention of Twice, Toga and Daiden Shi besides. I'm sure it's what Magna would have wanted, right? Twice, he said, leaving Jin silent, who nodded his head for a few seconds. Well, it's decided. The 3 of them are going to work with the Yakuza, said. Sometime later. Yakuza Underground Base. Here were the 3 members of the league. Toga, bored. Shigaraki ordered us to come, so I'm here against my will, said. Jin, happy. Angry. It's been a while since we saw each other. I'll never forgive you for what you did, said. Izuku, bored. As Toga said, we were here on Shigaraki's orders, said. Chisaki, calmly. I apologize for the Magna incident. I didn't mean to kill him and I understand his behavior, but now that we're partners, I'd like you to be part of my plan, said. Jin, angry, happy. Magna was a woman. You didn't even know her gender, and what's the plan? Said. Chisaki, calm. You just have to follow my orders. Now I ask you to tell me what your quirks are to see if they are useful and if they are we can coordinate more easily, said. Toga, quiet. If that's the case, then we should tell you when necessary, said. Jin, angry. Yes. We'll only say it when necessary, so for now we won't say anything, he said, crossing his arms. Twice and Toga explained their quirks. Shin, serious. What about you? He said, looking at little Nomu. What is your quirk? Asked. Izuku, calm. To tell the truth, I have 6 quirks. First, teleportation. To use it I must be clear about the place I want to go, otherwise it will not work. Second, alteration. I am able to alter my body as I want, making it bigger, smaller, etc. Third, elasticity. The name describes it. Fourth, advanced telekinesis. I can carry a ton with that. If I overdo it too much I get headaches. Fifth, enhance. It improved my physical abilities as well as quirks. And sixth, improved reflexes, said. After releasing all that information, I leave the room in silence. Shin, serious. So you're a Nomu? He asked with his quirk activated. Izuku, seriously. Yes. He answered. Chisaki, interested. So a Nomu. Very well, you and your friends will really be useful, he said, and saw Izuku raise his hand and asked. Izuku, a little serious. I have a question. What was it that they used against Mr. Compress when you took off his arm? Asked. Chisaki, calm. Oh, that. It's just a drug that temporarily nullifies quirks, he said, surprising Izuku. Izuku, a little serious. Okay, and he was interrupted. Everyone present in the room saw the door open, revealing a subordinate forcefully pulling a girl with a horn by the arm. Subordinate, seriously. Chisaki. I caught her trying to escape again, he said, giving it to the girl. Chisaki, seriously. Let her stay here, so I can keep an eye on her, said. Izuku, confused. A girl? What's a girl doing here? He thought. Sorry, Chisaki, he said, drawing the attention of the aforementioned. Who is that girl? Asked. Chisaki, seriously. I'll just say that the girl's name is Eri, said. The little Nomu approached the girl with curiosity and looked for a few moments at the bandages on her arms and legs. Izuku, calm. Hello Eri, my name is Dayton Shi, and he was interrupted by Eri, who just hugged him very tightly. Eri, scared, please. Help me, whisper. Izuku, calm. What did you do to him, Chisaki? He thought seriously. Wow, he seems to like hugs. He said out loud, starting to stroke the girl's head to calm her down. Don't worry. I'll keep you company while I'm working with Chisaki, and when this is all over, I'm sure they'll help you. Just be patient, I promise. He whispered all this while stroking the girl's head. Days later. The days passed and the Nomu boy interacted with Eri when he had the chance, although this was noticed by his friends and Chisaki. When he asked the little Nomu why he talked to her, and he replied, "Since I have nothing to do, I talk to Eri," this was able to convince Chisaki enough to not ask again. Now, Izuku was walking through the corridors of the underground base accompanied by Toga. Toga, bored, until when are we going to stop working for that Yakuza? Asked. Izuku, a little bored, I don't know, hopefully soon, plus I'm worried about Eri. Said. Toga, a little confused, why? You can watch it as long as you want while we're here. Said. Izuku, a little serious, it's because of the bandages he always has on his arms and legs. What kind of things does Chisaki do to him? Asked. At this the blonde remained silent for a few seconds, now understanding the little Nomu's concern. Toga, confused, so what are you going to do? Asked. Izuku, frustrated, unfortunately, I can't do anything to get her out of here even if I wanted to. So I'll have to wait for the heroes to discover this place or something. I don't know, I just hope they save her soon. He said, slowly closing his fists very tightly in frustration at not being able to do anything. Toga was about to say something, but a tremor was heard throughout the place and the subordinates began to run upwards. Toga, surprised, what's going on? Asked. Izuku, surprised, we're under attack. Said. To be continued. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and now we will see you in the next video.